Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the council meeting, the first council meeting of 2026, Monday, January 12th, 2026. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that the District of Metchosin conducts its business on the Coast Salish territory and the traditional territory of the Sianu First Nation. The District of Metchosin works to be increasingly mindful of its commitment to a more inclusive governance with our neighbors. I'd like to acknowledge our neighboring First Nations, the Sianu First Nation and the Suk First Nation. With that, you'll notice something new. We've gone paperless at the district in regards to the council meetings. So we've all got our tablets here. So we're going to take it a little bit slower. But with this, we're saving hours of time for staff, as well as about 3,000 pieces of paper. So we're saving trees. So we've gone paperless, but it's going to be a little bit clunky tonight. With that, council, we have the agenda before us as well as supplemental information. Could I have a motion to approve with the supplementals?
Mayor Little, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And I would make a motion to amend the agenda by removing item 12A. And the reason for that, that 12A deals with the fees bylaw, but I will make an observation that there are 3 of the 4 of us at the table that are part of the Metchosin Pickleball Club. And I believe that there might be the potential of a conflict of interest in that, which I think has to be addressed before we take on the subject. So I would make that motion to remove 12A for the time being.
I would second that motion.
Okay, that motion is on the table. So go ahead, Councillor Schulte.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Little. While I believe I can make, an objective assessment of the issue that is contained in 12A, which not only covers fees for a range of service, but also the fees for the gym and the school. Issues around conflict of interest are not entirely in the hands of the individual. They can be taken up by members of the public as well. So I think it would be incumbent upon this council to get clarity with 3 of the 4 of us at the table who are members of the pickleball club, where we stand in terms of conflict of interest before we make that motion. What I will say is that if you look at the user of the school, probably the most significant user is the pickleball club, and particularly in terms of revenue generation. So this isn't an insignificant issue.
Okay, Councillor Dollison.
Thank you. I actually was on a call with my own legal counsel on an unrelated matter, and that was the advice that I was given. So I would like to know from our district counsel if in fact, or legal counsel, if in fact that is applicable in this particular case.
Okay.
Please.
So is it the intent of the 3 members, it's not me, but that you 3, that you're going to, you would like to declare a conflict of interest in this case?
I at this point, I'm not sure whether there is a conflict of interest, but I would like to be safe.
Okay.
And I would like to be, in terms of the integrity of the decision that we might make, I think it would be a good move for us to seek the advice of legal counsel in terms of where we sit with this issue. And again, 3 of the 4 of us have that affiliation with that club, and we're being asked to make a decision on fees that will impact that club and will in some ways have a pecuniary impact on us as well.
Okay, but clearly this is not a pickleball bylaw. This is a fees bylaw in general. And every member at this table votes once a year for our 5-year financial plan and our taxes. Whether they go up or down, as a resident of Metchosin and somebody that sits at this table, you will be impacted by that as well. I don't see that as different. Let's have a discussion about that. No? Okay, go ahead. I'm not saying we can't get advice. I'm just questioning where this is. What is the difference between the tax bylaw, which affects you as a property owner, and this? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. If you,
Yeah, I think for me, the query is the perception. I'd like some clarity on, is there a perception that this could be a conflict of interest? Our municipal legal counsel would understand that way far better than I would. The example that I can only speak to is that when I have recused myself, which has been well known for the last 3 years that I've been at this table, is that there is a municipal infrastructure in my neighborhood where I've recused myself because it could be perceived that I have some sort of benefit in the deliberation of the investment of that infrastructure or the change of that infrastructure. And yet, and that's usually at the budget discussions. When it does come every year in April when we vote, I vote as the whole package, like you say. But in this particular case, this is a little bit more, or it feels like this is more, there's a magnifying glass on this operation, that yes, we could look at this as common fees, common costs, that sort of thing. It's just not as clear. Yeah, I'm not as sure.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
yeah, and again, as I understand conflict of interest provisions, you're free and clear if you're voting on a matter where there's a common benefit or a common interest that can be, throughout the whole community. So let's say tax rates, water rates, a fee that applies generally, yes. But in this case, I would say that the Machosen Pickleball Club, of which we are members, is I'm betting it is the single biggest user of the gym. The fees that are proposed now signal a 20% increase in those fees. And I think that's something that we have to get some clarity on in terms of it coming back for discussion and a vote. So.
Okay. Councillor Gray, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, now that the question's been raised, I think the approach that we received in our orientation was that we revert to municipal lawyers' advice. So
Okay.
I think the motion is to remove this from the agenda tonight, the agenda item,
and seek guidance
from the municipal lawyer.
Okay.
And then, but I might add that previously, as Councillor Donaldson, had got some advice and said it's fine to be at the table when we hear from the community about an issue. It's when we go to deliberation that I think we step away. I'm thinking about the people here tonight who may want to speak to the issue, and perhaps the CEO could clarify for us, but I think we may as well hear from people even if we're not making a decision, just because people have arrived tonight to speak.
Okay.
The CEO could advise on that.
Okay. CAO, if we were to pull this, can you give us some guidance at this point? I'm asking.
Yeah, through the chair. If the information is left on the agenda and we go through the fees and charges bylaw, we can single out that one line item, and council can not make that decision tonight. So you can listen to the community ahead of time, and then when we get to that section in the agenda, if council wishes not to make a decision on that one line item, we can take that into account and we can delay it or whatever you wish for more information, legal or not. So that's how I would do that.
Okay, I'm going to ask our
There's a
deputy.
number of line items on that.
Okay, our deputy corporate officer, Ms. Hanson, can you also weigh in?
Through the chair, if the three members council can stay in the room during public participation and hear the views of the public. There's no conflict in sitting. It's when the item comes up. But if council is going to vote on the matter of removing it from the agenda, then it won't come up at all this or later in the agenda package.
Very little.
Councillor Shukin.
I believe, I've heard Mr. Pyatt, and respectfully, I think it would be better for us to remove it. I think there's some complexity in segmenting out certain things, especially when staff maybe haven't had a chance to parse it up.
Okay.
And I think public participation is what it is. We can certainly hear,
Sure.
but yeah, so that would be my suggestion.
Okay. So what is on the table? Councillor Shukin has a motion on the table to the effect of removing item 12.A until a further date to seek further guidance. Okay, that was seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Further discussion? If not, I'll call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Great. Okay, so we've adopted the agenda as amended with the removal of 12A. So in regards to the people in the gallery, you're more than welcome to stay for the meeting and for public participation, but you don't need to. You're certainly welcome to stay and speak. And we don't have any presentations, but we do have time for public participation. We've got 4 minutes per person. If you come to the microphone, if you could introduce yourself and identify your street. There is a timer that we have available that is right on the table here. It will signal yellow when you have 30 seconds left of your 4 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Carol Voigt, Gemini Drive. I'm here as a Metchosin taxpayer and as part of Metchosin Pickleball Club. I urge Mayor and Council not to approve the district staff recommendation that Council give first, second, and third reading to the Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw 715. With this proposal, district administration seems to be repeating the unfortunate approach used in arriving at the September 15th, 2025 Council decision to reduce property tax exemptions for Metchosin's nonprofits by about 50%. Once again, district administration has opted to examine just a narrow portion of a broader cost-benefit relationship. No value has been placed on maintaining a self-sufficient, reliable renter. No value has been attributed to the many, many volunteer hours spent to enable hundreds of people to enjoy social recreation in Metchosin. Likewise, zero value has been attributed to the significant administration work and burden absorbed by unpaid MPC volunteers, which should more appropriately be undertaken by district staff. The proposed rate of a 20% increase in hourly rates and a staggering 80% increase in daily rates represent an increase that is between 9 and 36 times the prevailing rate of inflation, which last year was 2.2%. In a sample of 1 week of pickleball bookings, we currently pay the district $925 based upon a combination of hourly and daily rates. With the proposed fee schedule, the same number of booked hours, all will be billed hourly, not daily. At the hourly rate, the total cost will be $1,290, a 39.5% increase. So we're not seeing a 20% increase. We would see a 39.5% increase with this proposal. There's no justification for a rent increase of this magnitude. No rationale was provided for this increase. And of at least equal concern is that no attempt was made to consult with the adversely affected volunteer organization, which is the gym's main rental client, prior to coming to this recommendation. Since MPC is the main renter of Metchosin Gym, without MPC's booking, the gym could largely sit unused. MPC provided over $32,000 of rental income to the district last year. This is new revenue, and it is more than double the average increased cost to operate the entire school. Increasing rental fees for pickleball players to support the entire school is not equitable and ultimately may result in reduced income for the district rather than increased income due to decreased interest in booking and players taking their business to alternate venues. A large portion of this $32,000 could instead be spent in facilities other than in Metchosin. I appreciate that the district is seeking ways to constrain future property tax increases. However, as with the September 2025 proposal to subject nonprofits to a step change in their increase in annual costs, the latest proposal to increase net district revenues appears short-sighted, penny-wise, and pound-foolish. It is blind to the value that unpaid volunteers contribute to our community. If we truly wish to keep future property tax increases at reasonable levels, our district is looking in the wrong place. Much more meaningful savings for local taxpayers could be realized by re-examining the overly ambitious fire hall replacement project and developing a budget based on actual needs rather than unconstrained aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak at the microphone?
Myrna Forland on Highmont Drive. My husband and I, are writing on behalf of Metchosin Pickleball Club regarding the unexpected addition of today's council agenda, proposing an increase to the rental fees for the school gymnasium. This proposal comes as a complete surprise to our club. We were given no prior notice of any potential fee changes, despite the fact that we have pre-booked the gymnasium through the end of June and have already collected fees from our members based on the current rental rates. The proposed increase from $25 per hour to $30 per hour, representing a 20% increase, would place our club in the extremely difficult position of having to return to our members mid-season to request additional money. This is both impractical and unfair. Over the past 2 years, our club has generated many thousands of dollars in rental revenue for the District of Metchosin. We continue to expand our gym usage, which has provided consistent and increasing income for the district. Prior to 2024, the gymnasium was largely unused and unrented. Our club became the anchor tenant for the facility and brought the building to life. Beyond the direct rental revenue, the Pickleball Club has provided substantial community benefits. We have brought together over 300 participants, many of whom are Metchosin residents. We offered free beginner lessons, encouraging new players to become long-term participants and increasing gym usage. Our members regularly support nearby businesses, including the local restaurant, coffee shop, and the brew pub, contributing to the local economy. It's therefore deeply disappointing to see a proposed 20% fee increase directed at our club after 2 years of building participation, revenue generation, and community engagement. Of additional concern is the apparent lack of transparency regarding other users of the building. There has been no mention of revisiting the fee structure for the Arts and Cultural Center, which occupies the other half of the facility and reportedly pays only a nominal utilities fee rather than rent. A clear and transparent overview of how all users of the building are treated would be appreciated. This proposed change has the potential to negatively impact our club and the many residents who benefit from it. After 2 successful years as the anchor tenant, we sincerely hope Council will reconsider this motion, or at a minimum defer it, to allow for proper notice, consultation, and a fair, transparent review process. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we remain committed to working collaboratively with the district for the benefit of the Metchosin community.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak to the microphone?
Hello, my name is Lee Brumwell. I'm not a resident of Metchosin, but I have been a taxpayer living in the West Shore for more than 20 years. I'm a member of the Metchosin Pickleball Club, and I've been playing pickleball for more than 10 years. I started at the Wandafuka Recreation Center, and I now play twice a week in Metchosin. Pickleball for me has become my way of exercise to help keep me healthy. I've met so many Metchosinites, if that's what you're called, and have developed lifelong relationships with my pickleball friends. I'm a senior citizen on a fixed income, and raising prices will have a very big effect on me as to how often I can play the game and get my exercise and my socialization. I would really appreciate your careful consideration in looking at these prices again, so that the pickleball community can thrive and grow, as well as the revenue in Metchosin. So to be clear, I just oppose a price increase. Thank you.
I didn't get your name and your community.
Oh, I live in Langford, Lee Brumwell.
Libra Mom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Lamb, Hackmore Drive. I'm not here to speak about pickleball. First thing I would speak about is the fire hall grant application. Under the FOI, I've now had a chance to read through the application, and there's some points that I would raise with council that I'm not sure in the application on these particular points. Number one was that it's a social center, past, present, and future. I'm only aware of 3 or 4 social events that are held at that facility. So again, I question that characterization. The other point is retention of fire personnel. Having talked to several fire personnel, given that they are not permanent positions, a number have indicated that they come to Metchosin for the training so that they can apply to other fire departments for permanent positions. And in one case, an individual conveyed to me that the Fire Institute recommended that Metchosin as the best place to go to get that training. The other point is I've been doing a fair amount of research on fire halls built on the island and in Western Canada. And other than Saanich, the majority of fire halls that have been built over the past number of years, Metchosin is right near the top in terms of costs. So, and again, I will continue to do more research on it, but as to all of the features that the other ones had. The second point is the EV site at the Metchosin Community House. I saw in the package that there's an agreement that's been signed already with the CRD to move that from its present location to beside the cement parking pad that was installed. And I question the logic of that, because the fact is a number of people that don't come on the bus, that are transported by other individuals, they park beside that cement pad so that they can get access with a wheelchair to be wheeled in the back of the house. So you're proposing to make that stall next to the cement pad for an EV site. In the terms of the agreement, as I read it, nobody can park there. So now you precluded anybody from unloading. So I question whether that is the best approach. The third point is that, well, better go quick. Flesh Road Bridge. I've been observing that over the last while, and I think we're at high risk of having that potentially washed out. The basis has been severely eroded. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Eva Marianne Dillon. I live on Saddleback Road. I've been a resident of Metchosin for approximately 32 years. In the fall of 2024, I saw an article in the Metchosin Muse regarding introductory pickleball sessions with the Metchosin Pickleball Club. I was one of the 44 attendees, and from the first session was hooked on this wonderful sport. Since that time, I've joined regular groups, am hosting 2 groups, and am now playing pickleball 3 times a week. It's not just the game of pickleball that makes it so enjoyable. I've met so many wonderful people in Metchosin, many of whom are seniors like myself, who also enjoy the social aspects of the game. It is a welcoming, fun, and exciting community of individuals, couples, and instructors who have this pickleball bug and love the fact that they can play close to our homes in Metchosin for a reasonable fee. Many of the players are retired, seniors, or on a fixed income, and the ability to play a sport with only a racket, shoes, and pickleballs for a reasonable amount of money makes it a sport that can be enjoyed by all, regardless of age, fitness level, or income. Pickleball in Metchosin has expanded to over 300 members and is an overwhelming success, largely thanks to the organizers and volunteers who help run this program for nothing and by remitting that rental income to the Metchosin. I've been informed that the District of Metchosin is proposing an increase to the rental rates for the school gym where the Metchosin Pickleball plays pickleball 5 days per week on the 2 available indoor courts. A proposed daily increase from 200 to 360 is an increase equal to 80%. And a proposed increase to the hourly rate of over 20% has also been proposed. This proposed increase is unconscionable and totally unacceptable. I would hate to see the Metchosin Pickleball Club be forced to make other arrangements for court rentals in other communities due to this proposed rental increase. The Metchosin Pickleball Club was the biggest source of rental income from the school gym in 2025, and we are now being used and treated like Metchosin Council's cash cow. Mayor and Council, please show leadership by rejecting this ludicrous recommendation from staff and allow pickleball to flourish as it has done since day one in Metchosin. In my opinion, pickleball is the best thing that's happened to Metchosin in years. Respectfully submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak in the microphone?
Hello, my name is Teresa Cager. I live on Ambrosia Crescent in Langford and have been a taxpayer in the Western communities for 15 years. And I think I just want to shed a tiny bit of light on how much we pay for pickleball and the fact that most of us playing are seniors, and who else in your community is going to be using that gym all during the day? It's going to be your seniors and your people who are retired. And if they choose to go elsewhere because fees are beyond your means, you're going to lose income. It's not going to work. And there are places that we can play that are cheaper. This is still not the cheapest. So for example, I can play for $3.80, 3 hours of pickleball at Royal Roads. I can play at Juan de Fuca for approximately $6. We pay about $6.50 to $7.50 for 2 hours here, depending on how many people are in our group. So it's already not the cheapest place to play pickleball. So I think, so I'm basically recommending that the fee not be raised because it is only just sustainable for us on set incomes.
Thank you.
Sandra Lamb, Hackmore Drive. I'm reading this for a lady who plays pickleball and couldn't be here tonight. Apologies, I am resending because I neglected to add where I live. Okay, here she goes. I play pickleball Mondays 2 to 4. We are all seniors of disparate income, background, and athletic ability, and I use the term athletic loosely. Initially, I joined up to my fitness level, but was pleasantly surprised to discover that class gives me so much more. Pickleball is the gift that keeps on giving. I understand over 300 of us now play. As seniors, we use a disproportionate amount of the healthcare budget to treat many lifestyle-related ailments, cancer, diabetes, dementia, and heart disease. Hundreds of studies prove just how essential exercise is to healthy aging. Then there is the social aspect. Loneliness is also a key driver of illness and mental health challenges, documented in dozens of studies. I have lived in the Metchosin area for 6 years and never had the opportunity to make friends like this. Pickleball prevents social isolation. As we've gotten to know one another, sometimes groups go to the Broken Paddle, My Chosen Cafe, or Mile Zero after class. And so the benefits of pickleball extend to economic ones too. We are a boon to the nearby businesses. I can afford my pickleball rental fees, but I know others can't. A few in our group generally struggle to make ends meet. I know they would drop out if faced with a significant fee increase. And then there's the question of making money off the backs of volunteers. I know some in the Metchosin Pickleball Association spend hundreds, probably thousands of hours to ensure our community thrives, all for free, for the public good. To quickly ram through this kind of rate increase essentially punishes those volunteers for being too successful. To me, community works for the common good. The substantial proposed gym rental fee is anti-ethical to the common good. What makes Metchosin so marvelous is the deep commitment of hundreds of volunteers to make aspects of our community. No one employed by the local district made pickleball a roaring success. Volunteers did. I recognize and don't envy those tasked with balancing community budgets. It is unfortunate all the many benefits accrued by the pickleball gym rental, savings to our healthcare budget, a more fit and less isolated population, economic boost to local businesses, can't be captured in single Metchosin budget silo. I urge you to deeply explore the impact of this proposal, and deeply explore won't happen if this move is approved tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra, could you give the name of the person that you were reading this for?
Maureen Palmer.
Maureen Palmer, thank you.
Barb Sawatsky, Kavir Road. I wasn't going to speak tonight. I do play pickleball, but over at Metchosin Hall, not at the school. So I'm talking as a neutral person to this. I'm wondering, how much does it cost for your volunteer appreciation garden party in the summertime? Would that, if you canceled that, which isn't very popular anyway and is poorly attended compared to pickleball, could you not offset the cost of raising the pickleball fees for these hundreds of people who attend? I know you cooked 58 hot dogs last year, but if people ate 2 hot dogs, that's not very many people that attend the summer concert. Anyway, my suggestion.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak at the microphone?
Jane Haig, I'm on Circle Drive in Metchosin. I've been a resident of Metchosin for 12 years. I could stand here and talk about the amazing group of people I have met since joining Metchosin Pickleball Club. I could mention the wonderful volunteers who commit hours of their time to make this an accessible and welcoming activity right here in Metchosin. I could point out that an underused community venue has become a vibrant hub of activity to the benefit of many Metchosin residents. But instead, as a Metchosin taxpayer, I'm just going to say thank you to the Machosen Pickleball Club for generating an entirely new source of revenue to the tune of $32,000 in 2025. And thank you for continuing to provide an excellent community group, which will likely contribute a sum in excess of that due to increased membership and therefore more bookings in 2026. I don't believe any rent increase is necessary.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak this evening? Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on in our agenda then. Item So has everybody got item number 4 on their iPads? We're going to start with the adoption of the minutes. We've got the minutes from December 1st, 2025 for adoption.
Mayor Little, move adoption.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. For discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving along to December 1st, regular council meeting on page 9.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And the December 15th public hearing.
Motion to adopt.
Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we have the special council meeting from December 15th, 2025 on page 19.
Move adoption.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then we've got receipt of minutes, starting on page 25. Receipt of the minutes from December 19th, Agriculture Advisory Select Committee meeting. Councillor Donaldson.
Move to receive the December 9th Agriculture Advisory Select Committee meeting minutes to be received for information.
Okay, that's moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we have the Capital West Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting minutes of November 26th. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Mayor Little, and just want to pass on thanks to Ms. Jane Finnerty for attending on our behalf. She's our representative there. So.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. Okay, we're going to move on to the mayor's report. As you know, every year I give a summary to the community of what we've been up to. I'm a bit challenged now because I'm losing my voice, but I'm going to try, and maybe one of you can take over my notes if I lose my voice. So here it goes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the council chambers, your council chambers. The District of Machosen does conduct its business on the Coast Salish territory, and I previously had an acknowledgement this evening. Under the banner of working together for a strong and sustainable and protected future, as you know, I report on my own highlights of my own activities on behalf of council and the municipality every month at one of our council meetings. The annual address of the mayor is an opportunity to share a few collective highlights of the important work that is underway to build a stronger, healthier, more equitable, protected, and sustainable community for all the residents of Machosen. The district's overall accomplishments are always too numerous to include in my remarks, so this is indeed just intended to be a high-level summary. This term, your council has remained focused on our collective priorities. This is our last year of a 4-year mandate. The first 3 years have been busy for council, staff, and the many community volunteers. I want to sincerely thank you for your work and your commitment to this community. Together, we're working towards the goal of protecting and strengthening rural Machosen. The District of Machosen's first strategic plan, established in the early 2023, has been continually revised, and we continue to implement that plan. Developing a municipal strategy allows our community to take advantage of our opportunities, address our challenges, and mitigate the risks. Strategic planning has allowed our council and administration to work collaboratively to achieve a common vision for this community in a focused way. Our final strategic planning session will be at the end of this month. I'd like to review what we've done as a council in 2025 towards fulfilling our priorities and review some of the opportunities and challenges for us in the road ahead. In terms of the fire hall, much of our time in 2025 has been devoted to addressing the fire hall building assessment. The fire hall is the single most important structure in this district. The current fire hall is composed of two buildings: the administration building, built of cinder block in the 1950s and 1960s and was deemed unacceptable in the 1980s, and the apparatus bay area, completed in 1996. Both buildings are outdated, and both buildings have a range of deficiencies that can no longer be patched over or ignored. It is exciting that finally planning is underway for a new fire hall. Numerous open meetings have been held to discuss the feasibility study, which identifies options for building a new fire hall to replace the existing outdated and aged fire hall. A joint council fire hall steering committee meeting was held to receive input on the feasibility study for the purpose of the grant application. Council has endorsed the architect's preferred option, which is option 1A, which includes exploration of a new build on the adjacent ALR site and a retention of the existing apparatus bay to be used for other purposes. A grant of up to $7 million a grant application of up to $7 million has been submitted to give relief to the taxpayers of Metchosin. Our Chief Financial Officer has provided details of our existing reserves that can be applied to the new rebuild and loan options. Scenarios for short-term and long-term repayment of the potential loans have been provided. Although we won't make final decisions on the fire rebuild until we know our complete financial picture, there are some things that indeed need to be done regardless of which approach we need to be taken. The next steps and the tasks ahead will soon be summarized by the Fire Hall Steering Committee. Regardless of one's position on the scope of the project, we are certain that Council and the community are united in its assertions that the administration building desperately needs to be rebuilt and replaced as soon as possible. It is vital that we move forward on a new fire hall in a manner that respects the people that work and train there and provides some assurances on their welfare. We receive excellent care and service from our fire chief and our fire department. They protect us very well. Our fire department provides a vital service for the residents of Metchosin. Additionally, our fire chief has played a regional role in deployments of wildfire relief and collaborations around the CRD and as far as Port Renfrew. On a separate note, Sparky, the firehouse cat, who lives in the firehouse but spends a considerable amount of time in this building because of the treats that we provide, made the list of favorite stories of 2025 on Check TV. Regarding public safety and safe passage, this council continues to be committed to public safety and safe passage throughout the community. The stairs at Weir Beach have been rebuilt, allowing for safe beach access. The district has almost completed the active transportation plan with consultants from Urban Systems. Funding opportunities are being pursued to advance the recommendations. In response to community concerns, road safety improvements have been completed along Duke Road to enhance public safety. Similarly, lighted crossing at the Hans Helgeson School crosswalk was completed this year. Public safety is also a recurring topic in our good conversations and communications with West Shore RCMP. Working with our West Shore partners, we continue to engage the RCMP around issues like major crime and also traffic. In terms of community wellness, we are excited that the new wellness clinic will be established in the heart of the village center at the old school. Registered massage therapists and an acupuncturist will hold regular clinics there. In addition, we have begun to prepare for welcoming 2 nurse practitioners to Metchosin and to the school site who will provide medical care for unattached patients on the West Shore. In terms of access to water, construction of a proposed bulk water station will begin in the spring, and the project aims to support residents who are experiencing challenges to safe water supply. Site options have been reviewed by the JDF Water Commission and by Council. This project remains a priority for Council to improve access to reliable and safe water. In terms of bylaws, as indicated in our strategic plan, we are updating and revising outdated bylaws. Council adopted the following bylaws this year: an amendment to the Advisory Select Committee bylaw, the 2025 5-year financial plan, the 2025 tax rate bylaw, and the bylaw to address housekeeping amendments to the OCP village land use designation. Provincial housing legislation response. The District of Metchosin has responded to the province regarding their plan to increase housing options in BC, which is now a legislated reality. A great deal of effort by staff on behalf of Council and the community was spent on bylaws regarding housing, which required aligning Metchosin's OCP and land use bylaw and provincial mandates. The District of Metchosin's Housing Needs Report has been completed. Extensive community engagement was key to proposing these changes to our OCP. In terms of the bufferland stewardship, Council is currently considering options for the bufferland that emerged directly from community input that we received on the bufferland. Future plans include retaining ownership of the land and control of the bufferland to maximize environmental protection excuse me, and conservation of this community asset. We are pleased to welcome the stewardship group called the Friends of Metchosin Bufferland.
I'll move to recess.
Yeah. Perfect.
I apologize, I've lost my voice.
I will continue reading for Mayor Little. And Mayor Little just finished off with the Bufferland Stewardship Group, Friends of the Bufferland. So Sub-regionally, council continues to forge good relationships with neighboring councils and communities. Once a month, Mayor Little meets with the West Shore mayors to foster communication and open dialogue. For the first time, we have good communications and relationships with our neighboring councils and municipalities. We have an open dialogue and mutual respect with our Member of Parliament, the Honourable Stephanie McLean, and our MLA, the Honourable Dana Lajeunesse. This fall, council and staff had meetings with the Minister of Agriculture, the Honourable Lana Popham, the Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport, the Honourable Anne Kang, and the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General Nita Kruger, and staff from BC Assessment. Mayor Little recently met with the Minister of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship to express concerns regarding the protection of our aquifers and access to safe and sustainable water within our region. This council is committed to authentic public engagement. Once a month, the community is invited to have tea with the mayor. It is an opportunity to informally meet with the mayor and acting mayor in a group setting. Mayor Little also has an open door policy, and anyone from the community can make an appointment with her to meet. This year, we also held open houses to foster community engagement on plans for a new fire hall, the active transportation plan, the housing changes to the official community plan, and the proposed Parks and Trails Master Plan. Mayor Little would like to conclude by extending her gratitude to council, our staff, and our many volunteers. Mayor Little wishes to thank the many residents who care for this exceptional community and the spectacular natural environment that is key to Metchosen's identity. We ask that members of council be kind to each other, inside the chamber and outside in the community. The five of us at the table are here because we cherish this community, and we are always looking for the public's input, inspiration, and energy toward protecting and strengthening a resilient and rural Metchosen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Shukin. I'll see if I can get through this evening. If not, I'll hand it over to the acting mayor. Okay. Next up is the business arising. This is number 7 on page, I think it's 35 of your package. And we have recommendations from the Agriculture Advisory Select Committee on the Community Speaking Series. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you. At the December 9th Agriculture Advisory Select Committee, the following recommendation was made for council consideration: that council support the Agriculture Advisory Select Committee hosting a speaker series and workshops to facilitate the implementation of the agricultural plan. The first series to be a speaker on agritourism and take place this winter. There was an article written by our chair in the recent Metchosen News that talks a little bit about that and what agritourism is. We haven't set a date yet. We actually have a meeting this week to discuss that further and what other topics there will be. Some of the other things that have come up at UBCM were things about the change of the threshold for farm status through BC Assessment. That is under review with the Premier's task force. So that's another topic that we could be talking with our local growers about. And this isn't specific to ALR. This is all growers in our municipalities. So that's another situation. Also helping people maintain their agrarian nature of their property and in our municipality. With the amount of information that we gathered and produced in our with our consultant with the agriculture plan, the committee is very excited about working on some of the action items. So we're looking forward to the speakers series, and like I say, we'll be exploring that on Thursday, which is an open meeting for the public. If they wish to come and share some ideas, that would be great. We'd be happy to hear from the community as well. Not just farmers, but this is a proposal that the advisory committee would like to take on this spring, this winter and spring.
Do you want to make that motion?
I just did.
Okay.
Yes.
That's moved by Councillor Donaldson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shukin. More discussion? Councillor Donaldson?
No, I would like to refer people to attend the meeting and read the article in the Muse. And there is a contact information there for if people have more information that they require. Thank you.
And just to confirm, I think these are going to be open to the public. Thank you.
Sorry. Any other comments?
Well, just nice to see things moving along with the Agriculture Committee. So I'm going to vote in favor of the motion.
I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving along to the Capital West. You know what?
Mayor Little,
I'm going to have to turn this over.
I can take this one on if you like.
Say that again.
I can take this one on if you like.
Okay. Go ahead.
Late last year in December, the Capital West Accessibility Advisory Committee had made a recommendation to the member councils to add the roundtable discussion, which this council did approve, to their terms of reference. They held another meeting following that meeting, and they're now asking to have public participation added to their terms of reference. So they're going back to the member councils just to get approval on that.
Okay, Councillor Craig.
So I'm happy to move that the Capital West Accessibility Advisory Committee terms of reference be amended to include a public participation portion to the meeting, and the public participation portion be limited to a maximum duration of 30 minutes, and that each individual speaker be provided up to 5 minutes.
Okay. That's moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Councillor Gray?
This sounds like a good idea, and as the advisory committee is seeking help to involve the public, I think that's something we should support.
Okay. Councillor Donaldson?
No, I appreciate seeing the report in our agenda. I've been curious as to how they've been evolving over the past year, so I look forward to future reports, and pleased to hear that they're going to engage public as well, and hopefully we'll see more public people, or public attending rather from the region.
I'm just going to ask the corporate deputy officer, are there any downsides to this? It's a little bit unusual, but.
So our Machosen's advisory committees all do have public participation. I can't speak to the other members on how their advisory committees operate, but yeah, it's a council decision.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else wish to weigh in? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Let's move along. We've got next reports for action. We've got a request for the development variance permit, 909 Beckingham Place. And we've got a report here from our planner. And Councillor Shukin or CAO Ayat, who's going to start the discussion? Yep, go. Thank you, CAO Ayat.
Okay, through the chair, we have a relevant various permit application. The council was able to visit the site on a site visit. I believe all four were there. In the recommendation, it simply discusses the separation distance request of 33.7 meters from the 15 meters that's in the bylaw. The background information and the discussion is for council and your deliberations. It's comprehensive, and I'll draw your attention to the final paragraph of the discussion. Talks about the precedent-setting decision for the 18-lot subdivision at Beckingham, and The variance will provide a context-specific example for future lots, showing that flexibility in the separation can be considered where site-specific and environmental factors warrant it. While reduced separation would be desirable, from a planning perspective, the proposed configuration represents a reasonable compromise between clustering and environmental protection. And in terms of legal impacts, there were no concerns received in the position form. So it's up for council's decision for this variance request. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shukin.
Thank you, Mayor Little. Just pass on thanks to staff and the property owners for allowing us to get on site as quickly as we did. I'm willing to support this. It, as they say, based on the site, the information that we can glean from the site, the position will minimize tree clearing and blasting as well. And the only variance that we're looking at is the actual setback from the house. The one thing I do want to add, 2 points I want to add, is this is not about allowing and opening the door for secondary suites in the Beckingham subdivision. Those are already allowed. This is a variance in terms of the setback itself. One thing is the owners have done the right thing in applying for the variance versus building an accessory building and then putting, a suite up that, like sneaking in a suite. And we already have concerns about those in the district, about suites that are unauthorized right now. So the other thing too I want to mention is we are still going to be under the watchful eye of the province in terms of housing. And with all of that, and especially the environmental matters that the property owners have put forward in terms of site selection, I'm willing to support this. So.
Councillor Gray.
Yeah, it seems to me that the issues we're typically concerned about have been addressed by the planner in her note to us. The one thing that I think, the one thing that I'm interested in when I look at the recommendation of the planner, issue development variance permit 25-03 as per her recommendation. And I'm not sure if that includes, and someone could help me with this, that the recommendations made by the owners or the applicants, environmental experts, says that implementation of recommended mitigation measures will further protect the environment. In other words, they're recommended by the very own environmental assessment. And so I would like to see that those mitigation measures are part of granting the variance permit. Do we need to make a special amendment to the proposed option, or perhaps through the chair we can ask the CEO, are these mitigation measures included in granting the variance?
Councillor Shukin.
So the one thing I notice in the agenda package is, so the report has a very simple recommendation, if you will, but if you look in the agenda the agenda package, there is quite an elaborate approval motion, which does say approval in accordance with the recommended environmental protection measures contained in the environmental assessment prepared by Corvidae. So I'm sensing that it's covered.
Great. Which attachment is that?
That's
the motion
yeah,
in
that's
the
just
agenda
the
package.
agenda. Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
agenda.
I'll
Yeah.
just take a minute to review that. I apologize.
It's up
Deputy
on the screen as well.
Ms. Hanson, go ahead.
The recommended option is up on the screen as well.
Thanks very much, through the chair, Councillor Shukin. That clarifies it for me. I was looking at the report, which was much skinnier. So I'd be happy to make the motion when you're ready.
Okay. Just let me make sure that everybody's read the motion. Everybody's clear on the motion? Okay, go ahead.
So I move that council approve the development variance permit DVP 2503 for 909 Beckingham Place, legally described as Lot 6, Section 16, Chosen District, Plan EPP 146519, to vary section 23 bracket 10 bracket of Metchosin Land Use Bylaw number 259 to enable a proposed detached secondary suite and a proposed principal dwelling to be constructed with a separation distance of 33.7 meters rather than the maximum 15 meters in accordance with the setbacks as shown on Schedule A survey plan dated August 25, 2025, and in accordance with the recommended environmental protection measures contained in the environmental assessment prepared by Corvidae Environmental Consulting Incorporated, dated November 2025, as set out in Schedule B of the permit.
Okay, that's moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. More discussion? Councillor Shukin.
I'll just mention as well that this is also contained in the actual DVP itself that will be signed by the corporate officer. And again, the reference to the environmental protection measures in the Corvidae Environmental Consulting report. So yes, great point. Councillor Gray raises, and I think it's contained there.
Okay, so. Thank you. Any comments about the site visit? What you saw? Councillor Donaldson.
It's always valuable to go and see what something looks like rather than on a piece of paper and a map. There was a lot of thought given as to the placement of the detached dwelling, basically being next to the house. It's just separated, but also similar distance from the driveway. So they're being cognizant of environmental, but also the logistics of where their utilities are coming into the property, using the same well, putting in a cistern, that sort of thing. So thinking ahead for the future with water conservation and keeping the trees. We had a conversation about that and the least amount of disruption to the flora and fauna, which is something we value in our community.
Councillor Gray.
And just with reference to the CEO's comment that we should pay attention to the issue of precedence within the development, I think that's a good thing to be mindful of. And I think what we saw here was a good example, actually, of a real complete review by the proponent and a citing that makes sense vis-a-vis the environmental issues. I think the one area that I was interested in was we seem to be impacting the least amount of land and in a careful way as regards the site itself. And it doesn't seem like there's any opportunity for another driveway, one of our ongoing issues. It's a little closer to the neighbor's property, but I think the trade-off here is worth it, given the reports that we have in hand. And we also heard from the proponent that the neighbor is not at all concerned, and then we see in the notes themselves confirming there's been no negative input from neighbors. So I'm happy to vote in favor.
Okay. Any other concerns, comments? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, thank you. Let's move along. Next, we have a report on the City of Langford tax sharing revenue. And there's a recommendation attached. Was this going to be introduced by Mr. Creek? Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. So through our 2026-2030 financial plan budgeting meetings, Council has discussed about setting up a new reserve for the Bufferland project, coming out of the tax sharing revenue from the City of Langford. So the district started receiving this tax sharing revenue in 2018 after coming to a boundary adjustment with the City of Langford in respect to Section 92. In 2025, the district received $18,225, and it's totaled over $100,000 so far. When I was looking into this, Council actually set up or passed a resolution in 2018 saying that the money from the Langford tax sharing agreement should go towards the general capital reserve due to the recent depletion from the school purchase. So leave it up to Council today, so whether you want to make a new resolution to move that money into a separate Bufferland reserve or let it sit and keep going into the general capital reserve. Listed some pros and cons of each option. basically, at the end of the day, the buffer land project is going forward. So whether that money is going to come out of the city of Langford tax revenue that they provide to us, or if it comes out of District of Chosen property tax revenue, it doesn't really make a difference at the end of the day. But at least coming from the tax sharing revenue, we can show here's how much is going to be allocated rather than just a random number every year. Discussion.
Okay, thank you. So in 2025, the agreement generated just over 18,000 in tax revenue for the district. The question is, do we want to put it in a separate reserve? Who wants to discuss this first? Councillor Gray.
Sure. I appreciate the poetry in terms of collecting the money and putting it towards the buffer land, but I don't support the idea of moving the money to a new special reserve. As CFO has pointed out, we didn't know about this, I don't think, or some of us didn't. The money is already being put into our general capital reserve through previous council resolution. So I think the cons outweigh the pros in terms of the advice we've received here. In particular, setting up a new bylaw would take staff time, and we have other priority issues at the moment. It reduces our flexibility, and I see no reason to tie our hands particularly. The merits of the expenditures on the buffer lands will win on their own, and I don't think we'll need to weigh it against a number that really, to me, is extraneous. So in future, we'll fund the activities we need in the buffer land based on their merits and their priorities at the time. So I kind of like the poetry. I don't think it's a great idea to tie the hands of the council in this way, and the money will be available to us one way or the other. So I'd like to make decisions on the buffer land based on what we want to do there, rather than say, oh, we've used up all of our money, or something like that, or the other way around. We can't use the money for something else when we have a higher priority at the time.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
Thank you. Councillor Shugan.
So I'm interested in hearing what all of my colleagues think about this, but my own thoughts. I kind of like the idea of a reserve, but what I might suggest is if we were to decide on proceeding with that, it's like we fix an amount of money at this point, as opposed to all of the tax revenue that would come from the tax sharing agreement, because it is going to go up as the value of that land on the Langford side goes up. So it's possible that this could be worth quite a bit of money in the future. And I don't think that the buffer land should get it all. But to me, again, I'm open, I'm still considering this, but I feel like there are some good reasons for a reserve. So the buffer land is going to require, of all of our parks, the highest level of management of any of our parks. And that is simply because of the population on the one side and the lack of population on the other side. So if there is a reserve, we know that there's a pool of funds and there's a commitment, if you will, to action, the need to manage that land appropriately. The one thing I will say is I feel that there is an obligation that the whole community has to the people that live in the Neil Road area. And that is because the land swap that we voted on has actually ended up bringing the people in that area a high level of grief over the years because of all of the blasting, all of the rock drilling, the tree cutting. And I believe that there is an obligation that we have. And for that, we, of course, in time, we were going to get Section 95 and 28 and 25. And those two parcels, 28 and 25, are quite far away from the Neil Road area. So they've taken one on the chin for the community. And again, like I say, there will be significant needs over time, fencing, signage, additional support for invasives, etc. The ongoing reserve speaks to an ongoing commitment and a fund that we can tap into, and not kind of just, the political wiles of the day. So whether we get funds or not to manage that. So I think there's something to be said for a reserve, notwithstanding what Councillor Gray is saying about staff time and all that, and putting the bylaw together. So thank you.
Okay. Councillor Shukin, or sorry, Donaldson.
Thank you. Councillor Shukin actually commented on several of the things. As a person who only lives a quarter kilometer away, I can attest to what those neighbors that live much closer at the back door of 6 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. many of those days of rock grinding, blasting, noise pollution, the displacement of wildlife has been incredible. Clear cut of trees and underbrush and whatnot, and how that may affect us in the future. So there are some concerns, and we've discussed that at great length as to what that might look like. We don't know. We need things like monitoring stations and water quality, that sort of thing. We did replace the initial gate going in that is for our staff, fire emergency and that sort of stuff, to be able to go in. So there may be some costs that will come up. We have numerous work parties that we've been doing, and there'll be more of those, I suspect, with the stewards, as well as the Bufferland Working Group talked about a number of different things, a lot of considerations of what this land could be used for, as far as education with ecosystems and biodiversity, and a lot to learn from the nature of this 113 acres. The neighbors, the neighbors have taken on a great deal after the decision of the land swap. I know people who did vote in favor of this are benefiting from the nice quiet and tranquility of the other two sections that were part of the land swap. The third section still is section 95, as we know, is right next to the buffer land. So I was one of the people that was very interested in putting together the reserve, not the whole amount, because that will change and has gone up slightly each year. We don't know how much it's going to cost us to manage it, but because the buffer land is unique in itself, having a new zone that we've been working on, potential to do specifically post-secondary education, which I think is really key for our community, and also allows that segregation from heavy and residential plus industrial, which we still don't know what that is going to look like. So this has been a very good example of having a buffer. It's unfortunate we don't have it all the way along our borders with our other communities, but nevertheless, not all is lost. There's still opportunities to have conversations. So I would support doing a reserve of a nominal sum, and I'm sure we could address that or review that at future times, but certainly not the whole amount that will come up, because we don't know what those funds are, and those going in general revenues certainly will benefit our community as a whole as well.
Yeah, thank you. And I also agree. We do have an obligation to those people that live on that border, and we have an obligation to maintain that 113 acres as a buffer to mitigate the risks on the other side. And I'm not sure about using the whole, as has been mentioned at this table already. I wanted to ask a question of our CFO. Mr. Creek, if we were to have funds within this bufferland reserve, can money be taken out of it for other purposes, or is it locked in only for the bufferland?
Through the chair. Nope. Council could pass a resolution to pull money out of that reserve. It's not set. So. Okay.
Thank you. So that doesn't seem to be a problem. But it does signal that this is a priority. That this is a priority. It doesn't mean that the money will be spent willy-nilly. It will certainly be decisions of this table how the money will be spent. But there may be some other projects in that area that might warrant some infrastructure as a result of what is going on on the other side of the border. So that's why I would not want all of the money to be spent on the buffer lands. So Mr. Creek, can we say like an amount? And what would you suggest? Like 50% or 40%, 30%? I don't know how much this is going to increase. Can you give us some guidance, since three of us anyways have said that they'd be in favor of this, but not the full amount?
Through the chair. That really depends on kind of the projects that you want to be pulling off with it. Right, like if you said 50% right now, you get $9,000. Put it in there for the 2025 amount that we received, and then 50% might be $9,500 next year, or $10,000, and then I think over the next decade, that number is going to be escalating quite a bit as they put actual businesses, light industrial, whatever it goes into that development. So you could be seeing well into 10, 20, 30, 40,000 showing up in there at 50%. So if you wanted to set a dollar figure and say we want at least $15,000 a year or 50%, whichever one is higher, we'll take that, or lower.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gray.
Well, I was interested what people would say in terms of, counter argument, or what's the argument here. Mm-hmm. Having an obligation to people on Neil Road doesn't change anything. Putting money in reserve doesn't mean you've changed any commitment to anybody. Of course we have to take care of that piece of property, and of course we have to do the work there. I don't see how that connects. If that's the argument, I don't see how that connects to amount of money. And then we're asking a CFO who naturally says, I don't know, because we don't have a plan at the moment. So maybe this is something, if council wants to consider, that we should wait and hear what kind of costs might incur and then make the decision at that point in time. I just don't see a rationale to restrict the funds like that. And I see a previous commitment made to put the money to build up our general capital reserve in respect to the school site purchase. So what's wrong with that?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Councillor Shukin.
In terms of amount, again, I still am in favor of establishing a reserve. My own suggestion would be to set an amount of $15,000, and it seems reasonable. It has potential to leave other amounts in the future to go toward the school or to general capital as well. And again, I'd be that doesn't limit us from tapping into other budget amounts should there be a project. But given the volunteer power that we're engendering or working at, 15,000 strikes me as a decent amount to at least begin to consider. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah. Councillor Donaldson.
I would agree with that, and as you've said, Mayor Little, infrastructure, we do know that there's a culvert that is compromised already. Mm-hmm. Very, very old. That would be one of the things we might want to consider. Something else. Oh, the other thing that we had talked about earlier on in the Bufferland group, the working group, was a hydrologist, so having that kind of testing as well. Not all things are done by volunteers. The school also has its own reserve, and we do still consider funneling money into that, as well as it is starting to make some revenue, and at some point in time I'm hopeful that it will be more on its own and we won't have to subsidize it as the taxpayers are right now. So having a sum of money for the bufferland and future projects or infrastructure that we may or may not need, or studies, I think it is a good investment. Regardless of who lives there, it is an asset to this community and a unique piece of land. Many people have commented on having a wildlife corridor or nature corridor. It does still exist. It's just that it has been altered on the neighbor side, and so we can continue building with what we have. That may take some funding. We don't know what that funding looks like at this point, but these are some of the recommendations, or based on some of the recommendations that came out of the working group. And I do not wish to dismiss the amount of time and energy that went into that group, and great dedication and research taking. One of them was to consider something like a reserve. So 15,000 again, we can probably revisit that if that's too much or too little or whatever, but certainly opens up whatever funds are left that are being earned from the taxation agreement with Langford for other general revenue and investments to our community.
Okay. And in response, before you speak again, Councillor Gray, in response to Councillor Gray's comment, I think setting up a reserve does signal that it is a priority. Like our other reserves, I think it does signal that this is our priority. Practically, as has been noted in the report, if we proceed with any of the projects on the bufferland, the money has to come from somewhere. So it would come from general revenue, I presume. So I am in favor. I can't see any downfalls because money can be withdrawn from it by a resolution of council, if that is the will of the council of the day. Councillor Gray.
Sure. I just, from my perspective, it's window dressing, or you might call it performative. We have huge obligations with the roads, the school, the fire hall. $15,000 in a reserve doesn't make a huge amount of difference. And it just requires a bylaw, and then it requires resolutions to take it out if we need it for something, and it's just more work for little reason. It seems to me, as I said earlier, priorities and money spending, these are good rationale to do things in the bufferland, but that rationale needs to stand up and against other priorities at the time. And so I think we're all committed to the bufferland care because we decided that we're going to own it. So we have obligations that go with that, but I don't see setting up reserve, as the note sort of lays out, really, there's no grand reason to do this particularly.
Okay. Councillor Shukin.
Mayor Little, I would move that council direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to establish a reserve fund for the ongoing maintenance and ecological stewardship of the bufferland. So moved.
Are you going to put in a certain amount into that?
Sure. The amount. The amount is to be drawn from the tax sharing agreement with Langford Road, emanating from the reconciliation agreement. I think it is. Oh, sorry. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think I'm amending it a little bit, and that the amount be in the order of $15,000.
Okay. That's moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. CFO Creek, does that sound fine?
Through the chair. Do you want to do it for the 2025 year, or you just want to start in 2026?
2025. Okay. Mover and seconder, do you want to speak? No? No. Councillor Gray.
And just to clarify, in terms of the motion, it would read $15,000 annually. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one little point of color here. I had a conversation with a resident last year who was pointing out.
Mayor Little, sorry, there hasn't been a seconder.
Yes.
That was moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Go ahead.
Okay, and just again, point of color and why I'm supporting this. The resident was asking me, what are we doing in terms of responding to the significant growth that we're seeing on the Langford side and the Colwood side? And at that point, I wasn't able to point to direct action on the bufferland because we were still in consideration. But this is one of the things that we are doing in terms of managing the impacts from significant population growth. So again, for that reason, I think the reserve is of value for a number of reasons. So,
okay. Anyone else? Councillor Donaldson.
Just want to say we actually have a work party planned and arranged, scheduled for Saturday. It's at 10 till 12. So anybody wants to come out and volunteer for that, it's a very ambitious group, and we have a lot of fun, rain or shine.
Okay. And on the motion, is there any other comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? Those opposed? Councillor Gray opposed. Okay, thank you. Good discussion. Moving along to, what are we at? 8C. This is the amendment agreement, number 1, CRD Public Electric Vehicle Charging Stations. We have a report here and a recommendation. The report is, I'm just loading the documents here. Okay, got it. This is a report from Mr. Pyatt. Go ahead, Mr. Pyatt.
Okay, thanks through the chair. Not to simplify the request, but basically they, as a member of the public talked about earlier, relocating the exact location of where the plug-in would be over a couple of stalls, in essence to ensure that the installation goes smoothly and that the conduit for the electricity is smooth and more efficient. We can work out parking details with Machosen House as requested there so that they can unload their participants in a safe manner. I don't see any problem there. I'm sure we can figure some parking and unloading requirements. This is the lease agreement that we're just amending to change the location so that it's technically done properly. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any comments by council? Oh, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to see this having moved along. As everyone knows, it started at the beginning of our council, and it'll be a nice one for the annual report next year, I guess. So good news. But I do share the concerns that we heard from Gary Lamb earlier in public participation, and Gary's involved in the community house quite a bit. And I see the issue if the parking, or if the spot for the EV charger is right next to the cement that we put down for people to move, to have good access, we're kind of messing that up. So, and I just heard the CEO, but it's not so much where, it's sort of moving the parking over so there's at least room for a car to come in next to the non-electric vehicle coming next to the pad so that person can unload onto the pad would be a good idea. That's a little bit different because once we sign this, then it's done. How do we meet that concern?
Okay, Councillor Schubert.
And I would echo that as well. I think it would be really important, it sounds like, to have a discussion with the House and understand what the placement would mean in terms of access to the pad or parking needs or and whatnot. So I wonder if we might have that discussion and bring this back in time.
I would rather deal with it this evening. Don't forget that the pad is not going to be used 24 hours a day, that the bus comes and the bus goes, and that the parking stalls are not going to be on the cement pad that was meant for the accessibility bus. I guess what the concern is that people pull up to the side of the cement pad and then unload, but that they're not going to be there all the time. I think I can't see that space is going to be occupied 100% of the time. They may have to wait a minute, but go ahead, Councillor.
I think the issue might be that the electric vehicle might be parked there for quite a long time. So it gets parked for 3 hours or something, and then it just uses up that space. But rather than the person driving up quickly and letting somebody off, it's more the other way around.
But actually, it would be better if the person drove into the other side of the cement pad, because then they could let their passenger out directly onto the cement pad, as opposed to the driver side. You see what I mean?
If they backed in, you mean to get the person on the correct side? I'm not sure. I'd have to go and look at.
So if you're looking at the community house from the parking lot, you're on the cement pad. If the person pulls up on the right-hand side of the pad, it's the driver door that is going to get out onto the cement pad.
Not the person with the wheelchair.
Not the person in the wheelchair. So the better place would be on the other side, which is not where the EV station pad is.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at the diagram. I'm not sure that's correct.
Am I correct in my assumption there?
I'm not really sure. There's two sides where you can park beside the cement pad. Like, there's room to unload people on two sides. In fact, you can even park on the cement pad. So I'm sure we can figure out this parking issue.
Yeah, I'm sure we can figure this out. I'm sure that the CAO can have conversations with the community house over this. Yep.
Mayor Little, I have to confess I'm a little reluctant to make a decision without knowing that the folks at the community house have been just consulted, and we hear that on a regular basis. I would like to hold off if we could, and because it does seem like we're imposing. It's the district's building for sure, but it's under the care and management of the community association. And I feel like we're kind of just imposing something on them without having understanding if they've really had full input on this. So it's my sense right now.
Okay, so if we bring this back, we decide not to do it, where does that leave us?
Mayor Little, can I
Go ahead.
just add that the CRD were ready or prepared to start within the next couple of weeks with the install. So the next, if we brought it back, the next council meeting that it would come to would be February.
So it's going to delay the project.
Perhaps we could amend the motion to include, based on consultation of staff with the community house board as to the appropriate placement, so that this contract can actually be taken care of with CRD in the next few weeks.
Well, that the CRD has already identified that would be the best place.
Through the chair, the CRD contractors, along with the electrical engineering contractor, have identified that location as the best location to install have access to the house and the crawl space and the electrical panel, but as well as install the conduit underground. And it would mean the least amount of boring underground for the conduit.
Yeah, so my because I am not as familiar with it, I know where it's all located. The original site is quite a distance away. I'm just wondering if one stall over, as it's been identified, maybe is impacting the disability parking or accessibility parking rather. If one stall over, and again, that might work. It wouldn't be too much of a distance for coring, but as I'm not the expert and I'm not the boots on the ground as much as the staff, the contractor, and the house board, maybe it's a compromise.
Question for Mr. Payette or Ms. Hanson. Could we amend the motion so that we say pending discussions with the Metchosin Community Association, the council approve the amendment agreement? With the understanding that we're looking at where, the easiest way to do the boring and the technical work, left, right, center. So maybe there's a bit of a discussion that has to go on. But again, the key amendment would be pending for the discussions with the community association. We approve the amendment agreement. Like it? I bet.
You're wanting to approve the amendment pending?
the pending part might, well, the pending part might be a matter of to the left of the pad, to the right of the pad. No, it doesn't work over here. But it sounds like, I mean, a subtle movement might be kind of the order of the day. So. Okay. Again, without knowing that the community house has been discussed, and again, we put our trust in the association to run the house, and yeah, I think it would be good to have that. Sorry, I know we want to move on this, and yeah, so, good. You okay?
I'm going to take over.
Are you gonna make a motion to postpone to the next upcoming
Yeah,
meeting?
I would move that we postpone this until further discussion with the community, Chosen Community Association.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, I've lost my voice, so could the acting mayor take over the chair? Thank you.
Sorry. Sure. Okay, so we'll move on to 8D. On page 125, this is a report from the West Shore Parks and Recreation. The CAO Grant Brown has a request for us to appoint a representative to the board. The motion reads that council appoint Mayor Little as the district representative for the West Shore Parks and Recreation meetings and annual general meeting, not the board, for 2026.
I'll second that if you made the motion.
So that is the motion.
Okay.
So motion by myself, Councillor Donaldson, and seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion, Councillor Gray.
I just had a question. You're the liaison, Councillor Donaldson, to the West Shore Parks and Rec.
Correct.
Why do we change the representative for the AGM?
I don't have a full answer for that, but it's the mayor who actually represents us at the West Shore annual general meeting, not the board. I'm the appointed council liaison at the board.
So you'll be at the meeting as well?
I will be at the meetings. We usually have a meeting after the AGM. Yes.
I mean, I'm happy to make the appointment as recommended. I just was curious when you would know.
We do this every year.
Yes, I recall.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor Little.
Yeah, so it's not a change. It's what we've been doing.
Correct. Councillor Shukin.
I'll note that the meeting is in June as well, so by that time, Mayor Little's cough will probably be subsided. So,
yes. Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to section 9, reports for information. The 2025 year-end West Shore Parks and Recreation Facility Master Plan Progress Report is in the package this evening. And it explains, and I've reported that in my previous councillor's update as to what has taken place. And as you know, you've also engaged in the participation of council engagement. The consultants went to all the councils for input, and I thank you for that input. Each of you had something to say, both positive, constructive, in some cases maybe negative that didn't work for our particular community. This has been very valuable for the board as well. They were consulted as well as the public was consulted. And so one of the things that is in this report is that this will be to develop a 10 to 20 year roadmap for addressing the growing sport and recreation needs of the community. Seeing that we have some input that they want to take a little bit more time to consider, to date, we have spent $127,747. The total budget for the master plan was $140,000. So they are thinking that this will actually be extended a bit more for, I thought I saw it here about more, I think what it was is to, oh yes, here we are, no, that's one, what is it here? Have resulted in anticipated expansion of project scope, which has pushed the project into 2026. So they're looking to update some of that information and the timeline. And so any extra costs, the West Shore Parks and Recreation Society will be borne those costs in their operating budget. So the motion this evening is that that the West Shore Parks and Recreation Facility Master Plan Progress Report is received for information. So moved by myself, Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to 9B, Wildlife Society Year-End Report and Financials on page 129. The motion on the table here is based on their financial statement, which is in our package. Very comprehensive, all the things that they've been doing to spread good educational information across the region and up and down the island on all things related to anywhere from bear attractants, cohabitating with wildlife in our neighborhoods, and how we mitigate conflicts. The motion suggested is that the Wildlife Society year-end report and financials be received for information. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Any discussion?
Just a quick comment. Big thanks to Wildwise for passing this on, and they do great work. Just small little sample of that, or example is we see their signs in our neighborhood all the time. So, yeah. One other thing too, we all had a calendar in our mailboxes, and there's a fabulous photo of, I think it's a gray whale that was taken by Molly Cameron. So, yeah, breaching or doing something. So, yeah.
Cool, thank you. So, yeah, I call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And on to C, the Compost Education Center year-end report. Again, another group that's doing great work in educating all ages of people about growing components. The motion here is that the Compost Education Center report be received for information. Moved by myself. I need a seconder. Second by Councillor Gray. Any comments, discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. On to D, District of Metchosin Building Inspection Department Report, November and December 2025. This is page 147. Motion is that the District of Metchosin Building Inspection Department reports from November and December 2025 be received for information. So moved by myself, Councillor Donaldson. Need a seconder, Councillor Gray. Any comments, discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried. On to E, District of Metchosin Public Communication Report Statistics, November and December 2025. On page 151, that the District of Metchosin Public Communication Report Statistics for November and December 2025 be received for information. I need a seconder. Second by Councillor Shukin. Any discussion or comments? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to section 10, correspondence for action, page 155. We have a letter from Andy McKinnon regarding the Metchosin Biodiversity Project Talk and Walk series, request to use council chambers for 2026 series. This is on page 155. Okay, oh, here we are. Okay, Would anybody like to start discussion on this? Councillor Shukin?
So just pass on a big thanks to Mr. McKinnon and Mr. Luther for all the work that they have previously done on the Talk and Walk series. I think, like everyone here, I've been to many of these events. With regard to the request to use council chambers, my own perspective on this is that if there was no other alternative other than the council chambers, I would be very supportive. But there are alternatives. There's the school, notably 3 classrooms there at present. There's the community house. There's the DIY room back to the school again. And all of these can be accessed with very little cost. And I say that within the context too of the decision to move non-council, non-advisory committee meetings out of the chamber. And so, for example, we've even semi-related meetings that I've had, I've actually booked the room at the hall. Sometimes we can get it for free, and sometimes they're of a nature where I've actually had to pay to meet. So I've taken that seriously. But the other thing too is we have a number of other community groups that do great work in the community. I'm thinking about, for example, Machosen Learning Group. They've held meetings at the school as well. Friends of the Bufferland, we've met at the school as well. MISC, the Machosen Invasive Species Collective, they actually meet outside. The Machosen Day Committee, they meet in random places as well. So I think just in terms of being consistent, I think that we should open things up to meeting at the school and encourage the Talk and Walk folks to have a donation bin, which I'm happy to contribute to in terms of the cost. I think it's $15 an hour to rent the a school classroom. So, yeah.
Anybody else? Councillor Gray?
Sure, I take a different perspective. I'm not aware of this having been discussed previously by council. This group has been using the council chambers now for 2 decades. I think that if a decision was reached to move them out, similar to our last discussion, it's important to have a conversation with the people involved. And so this seems like it's happened, and now they're not here, and I'm not sure exactly why. I heard that part of the issue was the AV equipment, but as I say, these guys have been here, the guys and gals have been here for 20 years coming in. I took a look. Their use in the number of talk and walks in the last 2 years has been four times per year. I think withdrawing support from another community group just is a bad record. I think that we could work together for a solution if it's the AV things and continue to allow them to be here. I noticed that we have a policy that Council may approve by resolution the occasional use of the council chamber by a non-profit, Machosen-based group and organization, subject to a security deposit and a commissioner or a council member being in attendance. I'd be happy to attend the meetings in 2026. So I'd like to move that council permit the Machosen Biodiversity Project to use council chambers on occasion for their talk and walk series with some snacks. And as I say, and I'll attend.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? See no seconder, so the motion will fail. Any other discussion? Mayor Little?
Yeah, I'll just comment that our decision in no way reflects our thanks to this community group. It has been functioning exceptionally well, and these are exceptionally valuable talks within our community. However, it doesn't really fit into our policy, although we can make exceptions. Unfortunately, we'd have to make exceptions for other community groups as well. We are trying to encourage people to use the school. We're not denying them access. it's $15, $15 per hour at the at the school. I don't know how much it would be at the community house, and I think we should be encouraging groups to use those centers. And actually, there's at the school there is it's as accessible as this room. There's not carpet. I think we've been told, or actually, the staff have been told that this should remain as a council chamber, and it shouldn't be for external groups. We have had problems with the microphones, which are very expensive, and we still haven't got it right with them. I'm just not in favor of anybody outside of what is defined in the policy using this. Thank you.
Okay, and I'd just like to share my perspective on my experience of using this facility a number of years ago when I was the commissioner of the 14th Wanafuka Scouting Group. We did gravitate from homes to using the chamber because it was entry level. At that time, our sponsor, who attended for 22 years straight, was an elderly gentleman who I would pick up at Mackey Lodge, and this was much easier to get into. Fast forward to recent years, I have also sponsored the ability for the Chosen Grown group, which is a gardening group, to have a couple of meeting sessions here. Certainly the equestrians, our drill team has met here. And so what has occurred is because we've invested more and more over the years, not just this term, but we had a TV installed, I believe, last term or the term before. And the technology has, as Mayor Little said, is also an investment. It is a place of governance, and this is what I've been encouraged from staff in the last few years, which is why the groups that I've been working with that are not governance group have been encouraged to conduct their business elsewhere. And as an example, I know that the equestrians have met at the house, as well as the scouts have also met there. I've been involved with different groups that my colleague Councillor Shukin has with the school. There's also a room in the community hall, I believe, upstairs that could be used. So yes, there are lots of options. The pavilion's another wonderful place. It's outdoors, it's undercover. Those sorts of places are all available. So to maintain, we have not discussed this, I don't believe formally, as Councillor Gray has stated at on the council table here. But so here we are, we're faced with this, and I think it's encouraging that the talk and walk is coming back. I've missed hearing about the ability to learn more about the environments around us and the great work that this group has done, and the fact they want to keep doing it is fantastic. So I would like to, do we have a motion here? We don't have a motion, so it's just a correspondence for action based on the policy and the request. So I would like to, for us to encourage the group to keep going and provide alternatives. Councillor Gray.
Yeah, thank you. And just through the chair, I want to ask Mayor Little, how is this not, how would it not be consistent with the policy A100 or -30, which we have before us, to have the talk and walks here in the council chambers on an occasional basis with a councillor in attendance?
So the policy in item number 2 specifically permits it for a certain amount of groups or a certain number of groups. This group does not fit into categories A to E, and so it doesn't fit the policy. What I'm saying is, and we can make it available for special organizations, but then we'd have to make it available for others as well. So then we might as well change the policy. It doesn't meet the policy in 2A to E. And a policy item number 3, it doesn't meet that either. It does say that we can approve by resolution the occasional use. Yeah, it does say that, but it is designed for those listed in 2A to E.
Thanks for clarifying. It's completely consistent with the policy that the group come and meet here, but we're choosing to do something different. I just want to say this is one more volunteer nonprofit group that we didn't consult before we made a change. They've been 2 decades using the room with no issues. It's surprising to me that we go in a different direction tonight. Thank you.
Chair, actually, there is correspondence back and forth between Andy McKinnon and the CAO, so they were consulted. This is a letter from Andy.
So you mean we asked them whether or not they were okay to be leaving the room and had correspondence asking them the question or consulting with them over the question? Or did we tell them they were no longer welcome here?
We haven't told them that yet, but this is a decision of this table.
Yeah.
Councillor Schicken.
The one thing I would say again is that there are alternatives, and it sounds to me like the bulk of us who are meeting with external groups have taken to heart the goal of getting those meetings out of the chamber and using alternative spaces. So for example, the grounds group, where we have over a dozen representatives from various groups on the grounds. We actually meet at the school now. Again, we're not an advisory committee, we're not council, so we take the onus to meet off-site as well. So the classrooms are really good. The AV is easy to set up. I was at a meeting of the Machosen Learning Group just at the close of the year. There were 44 people in the room, and the venue, I think, served very well.
So under the policy, you'd be able to meet here in the grounds group. There's no reason not to. 2E, external committees to which a Machosen councillor sits, provided the councillor has been appointed by council for that committee. And we have done that. So you've moved it for some reason, but don't know why.
Okay, so again, we go back to the direction we've had from staff that the audio equipment is sensitive. It has been, as we've seen, it's been disrupted from time to time. And also the fact that, case in point, there are alternative spaces to meet that are easy to access. So I'll leave it at that.
Sure, I don't recall the discussion at council on all that.
Correct. We have not discussed it at council. I believe that's why it's here at the table now. We have been encouraged, obviously individually, by staff of the quality that our equipment is and the investment, including the public, have said, we still need to improve on that because there's still the audio is not working as well for the people who sit in the back. The live stream is working perfectly well. There's still more work to do. So we have been encouraged by staff to encourage our groups, our people, our residents to use the other facilities, which we have clearly a plethora of, to use. Otherwise, they also sit vacant. So this is a place of governance, this chamber, and I suspect this is why we've also been encouraged that perhaps the policy needs to be updated. I don't know if the emergency program even meets here anymore, or if they're meeting at the fire hall. I'm not certain of that. The Citizens Advisory Committee of the William Head Institution, I'm not even sure if we have anybody appointed to that or if it exists. So not to open up another topic here, but maybe there's some changes that need to be addressed with the policy.
Yeah, we meet at the prison.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Thanks for the background. I guess I'm not a liaison to any groups that are individually meeting here that need to be moved, so I wasn't part of the group hearing individually about moving groups out of here. But there we have it. I'm happy to move on to another agenda.
Okay, so there's no motion required here. This is just correspondence for action. I suspect that staff will be
Move receipt.
Move receipt, thank you. Second by Councillor Mayer, and Mayor Lillis, I should say, Council Mayor. Any further discussion?
No.
Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Next, correspondence for action is 10B, Anna Whiten, Metchosin Equestrian Society, request for approval in principle for site improvements to leased area. Does anybody wish to start the conversation on this topic? This is on page 159 of your agenda. Okay, so I don't see anybody willing to step forward on this, so I'll start it. So we've received a number of emails from the Vice President of MES, Anna Whiten, regarding some improvements that the Metchosin Equestrian Society would like to address of their leased area, which is the back of the warm-up ring all the way up to Happy Valley Road, adjacent to both the Metchosin Community Association and the Farmers Market and Peyton Way. Some of the things that they're looking for consent in principle on are to bring water and electricity service to their site, change the parking area, which is currently grass, to a gravel parking area to make it accessible year-round. Erect some horse shelters for their members during events and emergency use should there be a need. They have received some initial quotes for the total project. I'm assuming this is for all these amenities of $190,000. And they recognize we do not have the finances for that, but they are prepared to do apply for grants and I think fundraising. I saw that in a previous email. I don't see that here, but and they have also mentioned here there is support from the Metchosin Museum Society, Producers Association, and the Community House. We did receive one letter from Metchosin Arts Association. I haven't seen any other letters. I did speak to the Producers Association, and they are supportive of the gravel parking lot area. And I did speak also with the Community House, who have yet to have a fulsome discussion, and apparently no letter of support yet has been submitted for the projects. So I can't speak on behalf of any input from those. Okay.
Do you want to go through the projects one by one?
Sure. So on the first project, and I can speak to a little bit of the background on it, having been a past president and an active member. So adequate water, this is something that has been something we've had to deal with since changing the footing from hog fuel, which is almost, well, impossible to get now. It's string hog fuel, which isn't quite as safe, and there's a certain level of maintenance with that. They chose to go with sand, and sand can be dusty, and we are replenishing that all the time because dust, the sand and dust floats away. So it does need to be irrigated. Specifically, you'll notice on Tuesdays from May till September, a cloud of dust every morning when we have upwards of 8 horses. So if you can imagine 32 hooves pounding on that footing, is quite a cloud, and it's very difficult for breathing, not for the riders only, but certainly for the animals. So keeping the dust down for that purpose, but also because the neighbors and the farmers market when it's going on. So water has been, I think, a priority for the club. As a person who sits on the Wanafuco water distribution board, I did inquire about a quote. I do have an initial quote for putting in the water main is on the north side of Happy Valley Road, so it would have to come underneath the road for a meter to be put on the south side, which is the municipal property side. And then I do have a meeting set up with a plumber. It's been difficult the last few months, it seems, with weather and contract work and now the holidays. So that'll be happening within the next couple of weeks with a plumber to give another idea. I have measured out just from the road to the in-gate is 600 feet. If there was an option to come in from the driveway to, say, the public works, that's an extra amount. I haven't measured that. I understand that there's another user group on the property that are interested in irrigating an area that they use. That's something that staff, I'd like to explore a little bit more with them before I get a full quote from this particular company. So those are some things. The water supply, last year we, the members of the club hired a water truck. It does get quite expensive to do that. It also, a truck on the footing does pack it down quite a bit. It takes 2 people to do that. So it's a little bit of labor involved. Irrigating it, they have a commercial farm agriculture sprinkler that does require a substantial amount of pressure that would be equal to what you would get from a hydrant, so upwards of 1500 psi, I think they call that, for it to work properly. And having the ability to access a meter that they would then pay for at a moment's notice, they can put that sprinkler into use and not ahead of time where it would evaporate or drain away, relying on a truck, having to book a truck, that sort of thing. So this allows them to be more independent. Again, we did as a club years ago cost that out, and it was at that time $15,000. I suspect it's going to be at least double that now, if not more. Electricity, there is electricity to the grandstands right now, and they have an announcer's booth. That's where they'll use their PA system for when they do shows, specifically Machosen Day, and some other fun day shows that they've done. And there is a panel in the building. It is in the concession. Other uses would be when the concession is in use for like a coffee urn or what do you call it, slow cooker, if they had a chili or whatever. There are no other cooking elements in there of any sort. And that comes from the museum. And so there has been a nominal fee requested of the club from time to time to pay for that. So the electricity's already there, so I'm not sure the extension of what that electricity would be needed for, other than to be more independent. So that could be a significant cost. The gravel in the parking area.
So maybe it'd be helpful if I do a motion for the water in particular. Should that be okay?
Okay.
I have questions about the power, because they're getting power now from the museum group, and there's panels. There's panels on the roof that provides them with electricity. I think it's worked out to be a pretty good arrangement. I don't know whether they would want to increase their costs that way if it's not working. But I'd be willing to say that I'm in agreement in principle with them bringing in adequate water.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to agree in principle for the adequate water. Seconded, Councillor Shukin. Any discussion?
So can I just ask?
Yes, absolutely.
So the request is provide us a letter of consent in principle. So this would be the motion is to provide a letter of consent in principle for the MES for water and electricity service.
We're just addressing the water part at the moment. Is that correct, Mayor Lowell? Yes. Her motion is just the water.
Just the water. Okay. And typically, I think you run a water line, you put electrical line in the ditch. It's a good way of doing things, save a lot of money. If they want electricity out there, it would generally come in the same ditch that they'd dig for the water. So I imagine that's why they do it at the same time.
Yeah.
At the moment, there is an extension cord that goes across from the
No, the electricity is actually all underground. That was put in by the, there's documentation on that actually with MES. I know that there was members of the museum that were involved with that to get the panel to the concession. There's a panel there. I did show that actually to their current president of the Museum Society.
Well, I'm happy to support both water and electricity, but the motion's only for the letter of consent in principle about water.
For water, yes. Okay, and so we have a mover and a seconder. Any other discussion for water? Okay, seeing none, call the question. All in favor for exploring the water? Thank you very much. Carried.
So can you comment on the electricity? Is there a greater need for that?
I don't know, but if it's okay with council, we do have two members of the society here. Actually, the authors of this letter. If you're okay, we can actually have them come to the podium and ask them. Is this?
Sure, I'm happy to move a motion to that we give them a letter of consent in principle for the MES to put in electricity.
Okay, so I would ask that Stella French and Hannah Whiten come to the podium and explain to us the needs for more electricity.
Councillor Donaldson?
Yes?
Could we get a seconder for the motion first, please?
For the water? Oh, the electricity. Okay, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Okay, now we're open for discussion. So ladies, can you come to the podium, please?
So the request for electricity is specifically for us to incorporate arena lighting in the future. At this point in time, we obviously can't afford it, but we would love to have that opportunity and capability in the future. With the addition, as Councillor Gray mentioned, of water lines, running electricity at this point makes sense. It's a one and done. And we are basically stealing, by the good graces, electricity from the museum. In the future, we would like to be independent and not electricity thieves. Thank you.
Councillor Shukin.
Through you, Councillor Donaldson.
Yes.
Have you explored the grant programs you want to pursue? Like, do you have a sense, or and that's okay if you don't, but
I currently have about 3 in draft right now that are ready to be submitted.
Okay.
One of which is due, grant closure is January 20th. I need to have the letter of consent from the municipal council, our leaseholder, saying that we're allowed to make changes to our leased facilities before we can actually apply for these grants. So this is our ask is, can we please details? We're at this point just actively asking for grants and support from outside groups.
what other question? Yes. Ms. Whitten, thanks. So there are 3 projects here. There's water, electricity, gravel, and horse shelters. Are the grants that you're applying for, are they going to cover, do you think you'll get blanket funding, or will you have to go one project per?
We're going to have to separate the projects at this point because we don't have any support or consent from you guys. Obviously, we have survived for over 30 years without water. We've survived already more than 30 years without electricity. We're okay with living in the 1800s, but we do really need shelter for our horses. So that one's going to get prioritized because that allows us to be more inclusive as a society for riders with different abilities that need a little bit of support, like a safe place to put their horses. And it provides our community with emergency preparedness capabilities that have been identified in the last several years as part of our lack of capabilities as a community, and as well with the closure of Lexington Fairgrounds, with the closure of other facilities in the area, we have had more and more need identified and not filled.
Mayor Little.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for answering some of our questions. Since we're talking about other projects, Or do you want to just deal with the motion on the table, which is electricity? Let's do that. That's
Yes.
cleaner. Okay, so regarding the electricity, if you feel you need to have, be independent, I was hoping that all the groups would be collaborating and there wouldn't be any issues. But if you feel that you need to be independent in your electricity, I would support you.
Ultimately, our long-term goal would be to have arena lighting that we could use in the evenings. We would not feel comfortable asking the Museum Society to provide us with electricity for that.
And then the other question that I have is there sufficient interest in having riding at night? Presumably it would be in the winter when many of the times we have rain. I'm just wondering, it's not covered. Is there sufficient interest in that?
Absolutely. Right now we have Thursday evening practices taking place in Saanich at a partnership location that we've been utilizing because we don't have parking or lighting at our location.
Is that a covered venue or uncovered?
It is covered and uncovered. They have outdoor spaces as well as indoor spaces. All are lit and have parking, ample parking and stalls.
Okay. And
Okay, so I have two queries about the electricity. This was brought up a number of years ago from a past president before my time. And it never came to fruition because as volunteers keep moving on. There is a dark sky policy that we do have in the district, so any lighting would affect neighbors, not even closest to us here, but because there's not a lot of trees, it would affect other neighbors. So there's certain criteria that would need to be addressed in that regard. I'm currently riding in an arena right now that has night lighting, and it's all solar, even with trees around. So is that something that could be considered in the interim?
I think I can speak to that. I think we are looking for step number one. We can't do anything without money. We can't do anything about money until we have principle in kind. Once we have that, we can get money, and then we can look at the hows and the whats and the wherefores.
Okay, great. Any other questions, Council, on electricity? Okay, do we have a motion that would support consent in principle for electrical services with the information you've heard this evening?
I think Councillor Gray put a motion on the table and it was seconded.
Okay, yeah. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I guess I would just offer that to the proponents that there is this issue of the dark sky on the district properties, and so that may be something to look at, before you put the money in. On the other hand, I understand the general idea, but the electrical line is not very expensive. I know there are money issues, but not so expensive if there are water lines going in. So I think it's probably a good idea, regardless of what the future might hold. But that would be a decision on your side, knowing that arena lighting is not a slam dunk. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Cooper, any other comments? Okay, call the question. All in favor of electricity? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to the gravel for the existing parking lot to make it accessible year-round. We cordoned off that area a number of years ago because it got really muddy in the winter. And so members were encouraged to park in the gravel area. There's no market going on in the winter, so there's areas to park up and down without interfering with the parking at the community house, and there's parking up by the parking area where the grandstand is only on weekends because that area does get used by walkers and visitors, and it's a gravel area. No parking inside the market, of course. And generally, in the 35 plus years that arena has been there, there have not been shows in the winter. So we've been very careful to not have mud where the grass is. The grass there used to be more grass on the closest to the community house, and that has changed over. We still got some grass down there, but there was an expansion of parking for the community house, so there was some gravel put there. In speaking to two people of the community house board, their concern was keeping grass where the tent goes for the garage sale. And it was also suggested maybe a strip, that same strip of grass follow the whole lineage of the property that would be parallel with the hitching rails. And therefore what that would do is that the gravel would be, if it were approved here or discussed further, that the gravel then would be in line with where the trucks would actually park, not so much the trailers, the horses to get off the grass. So it not being all gravel, but it was a compromise suggested to maybe do both. The other thing was for us to think about how much does it cost us for our staff to mow compared to how much it's going to cost to maintain potholes, or would that cost be transferred over to billing the equestrian club? So we've already experienced pothole remediation at the house, and I have no idea what those costs are for our staff. So those are some of the things that came out of that conversation. Okay, so gravel, Councillor Shukin.
So through a question to you, through you, Councillor Donaldson. Sure. So the map I'm looking at shows gravel going all the way to the community house spot, or in front of the community house. And have you talked to them?
We have talked to both their president and their vice president.
Okay.
We are meeting with them next Saturday. They're doing a walk around for their garage sale. We have discussed, and they are inquiring of their Titan tents if they're, because Titan tents are put up all the time, not on grass, and what their systems are and what the options are for that. So next Saturday, we're meeting with them and trying to work as good neighbors to do what we both need.
And sorry.
And also to add, at this point, we are not, or we are anticipating keeping 10 feet in front of the hitching posts as grass for the comfort of our horses. So that drawing isn't particularly to scale because it is a large area, but under the shade of the trees that are there, the hitching posts are there, and then there would be a 10-foot strip in front of which would be grass.
It does go hand in hand with the ditch for the water and power, right? Once we have that ground torn up, it has to be remediated somehow. And so it makes sense as everybody's using our parking area to be able to use our parking area.
Yeah. Okay.
The benefit of having grass, as you know, does help with anything that leaches out of any of the vehicles that park there, not just the rigs. And it helps filter what goes into that ditch, because that ditch actually empties eventually into Bilson Creek at the end of Hillman. So those are things for us to consider as well.
Yeah.
Councillor Schumann.
I'm trying to recall the discussions that the Museum Society had around their portico, and also the Producer Society had around the new stalls that they put on. Now, I'm trying to recall because I think they brought this to the grounds group, which you both have attended, and discussed it with them and heard comments and all that. And then there was a site visit with certain people. Not certain people, I think all of the grounds group were invited, but it was a sort of take or to leave it. This was your opportunity to come and see. So I'm sensing with this, it's actually something you should consider as well. Gravel, I can see the sense of it in terms of parking, but it would be a fairly major change to an important community spot, given Chosen Day, the events you put on, and also the garage sale as well. So I think it would be good for everyone to understand what it is you're thinking about. So
we have contacted all of those groups independently. As soon as there is a meeting of all the grounds, we'll do it there.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Yeah. So we're planning a meeting, I think, at the end of March. Now I know that you're looking for the letter.
Exactly.
Yeah. So. Okay.
But this is just in principle. So I'm assuming, and maybe you can correct me, Councillor Shukin, that usually when there's an a request to alter the landscape, so as it were, that the grounds group personnel get together on site each time. So each projects probably need to be visited at those different times, and to get the cooperation from the grounds groups.
Yeah.
Certainly staff will need to have some input on some things too.
Yeah.
Councillor Gray.
Yeah, not a question, but just a comment that the question that raised to me, I didn't think about the tents or all those other ideas, but rather the upkeep costs. So I understand the group can hopefully get the money from a grant to put in this gravel. But last night I drove through the current parking lot at the community house, and once again it needs to be redone. So I don't, time kind of has changed from being on this council, so I don't remember, but it wasn't too long ago we had that all redone. The staff redid it all too, and it looked pretty nice. And now we're back at kind of a difficult parking lot again. So if we take a much larger area and convert it, my concern is not just money concern, not opposed to the idea, but the money concern about beyond the other issues that have been raised. What's it going to cost to keep that proper? It looks to be maybe double the size of the current lot, doubling the size.
Having driven through that tonight, one thing I see as a difference is that is a driveway thoroughfare, and we're talking about just off that beaten path, right? We can even delineate somehow that it's not the driveway, right?
Yeah, we just noticing this problem that we've got with the gravel, and again, I get the idea, and it's the timing to do it. Just how do we manage the ongoing costs? And we're kind of in a bit of a contained cost in this circumstance here, as you already heard.
Councillor Shukin.
What I'm sensing might happen is, well, I'm wondering, there's an application made for a grant. The grant comes, there's the potential of that money, but then there's a second visit to council because there will have to be some level of permission, especially with the water and the power, there will be permits needed. So I'm generally okay to go ahead and support the letter for these projects, and I'd like to talk about the horse shelters a little bit more. But I think before actual work gets done, there's a second check-in needed with all of the stakeholders, and especially with staff as well. So, yeah.
That's part of my letter.
Great. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So, and you ladies may recall that the independent operators have done work for the equestrians. They actually put in the footing, and I think that is a big freebie. They're a group of equipment operators, as their name suggests, that do in-kind work for organizations. They've done work for MES, they've done it for Camp Bernard, they did some parking lot work for the Victoria Motorcycle Club, as well as I believe they did some work for the Beaver Lake Horse Club as well. So that's not necessarily a grant per se, but that is in-kind work, and it's huge. So that's something that can almost be moved on fairly quickly without worrying about funds and grants and whatnot.
Before we can apply to them, we need your consent.
I understand. We haven't forgotten. We're still deliberating on Mayor Little.
Yeah, I have a little bit of concern about the gravel as well, particularly with what Councillor Gray had mentioned, that the upkeep and the maintenance. But also, I'm just wondering if I can ask through the chair to the CAO if we need ALC consent since we're modifying there, and then also with this structure, do we have to petition the ALC for that, similarly to what the cricketers had to go through when they modified the field? They had to apply to the ALC. So I think that will also be in your saying yes. Okay, so in this case, for modifications such as this, and then the stands that you wanted to make, we'd have to make an application. You'd have to make an application through us to the Agricultural Land Commission for the modification of this land since it's in the ALR. It's just the regulation. So I have a little bit of concerns with the gravel.
Okay, so do we have a motion for this one? No.
I'm sorry, one point of clarification. The ALC and the gravel, is that consistent with ALR land or not? I think, sorry, it's not. Okay. The stalls, I think.
Any altercation to the land has to go through the ALC.
Okay. Gotcha.
Unless it's
Yeah.
a 10 by 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is what the portico was. And then that still had a process to go through as well, because there's building inspector, engineer, there were numerous other levels.
Okay. I have to say, with that, and with the fact that we don't have a clear letter of support or an indication from the community association, I want to park this one. I think it's appropriate to park. And I apologize for that. I know you're wanting to move ahead. Between the fact that gravel isn't the magic answer to everything as we're seeing, and the use of the space for a few events, I'm reluctant to be open to a change right now without fully knowing that everyone is on side, especially knowing that it does have to go through an ALR approval. So,
okay. Any other comments on that? No? Okay, so we will move on to the next one. The next one is the horse shelters. These are the as previously described to us and in letters, the portable horse shelters for emergency preparedness was original intent, I believe, of those, and then came back to us for an addition of some form of roof. This would house 6 stalls, whether it's for horses or livestock. This came to us earlier in 2025, I think spring, maybe March. At that time, CIO had sent us a note for some input on that. I don't know what anybody else did, but I gave a page and a half of input. From my own perspective, I didn't rely on my own coaching background or knowledge. I actually contacted other coaches who I know are familiar with the arena and other facilities. And so I kind of did my homework on that. So before I comment further, I'd like to hear what council's thoughts are, because this has come to us a couple times. Anna has come and done a PowerPoint presentation, I believe last June, on the shelters as well. Councilor Shukin?
I have to confess, I have no objection to this that I can really think about. I know it's a change, and we'll have to get some sort of go ahead with the ALR or ALC. I did vote against supporting this when it came as a budget item, because I think there are other, and this was our budget meeting in December. We were asked for $25,000 to $30,000 for it. So I'm open. The design that we see on page 161, it seems very consistent with the producers, what they've got for the farmers market. And again, it is within the lease space of the Equestrian Society. I don't really have an objection, especially if it's just simply a letter in principle, or a letter to indicate support in principle. So,
okay. Mayor Little?
Yeah, thank you. And if I could ask some questions through the chair. So the inside stalls, have you already purchased the inside stalls? Yes, you have. Okay, so it's just the what are we going to call this? Portico? Pavilion? Stable? The pavilion that you want to build. So is it the intention that these stalls would be in the pavilion permanently 365 days a year? Okay. And how would that practically work in a wildfire situation, do you think? If I was to bring my horse there to keep it safe from Mount Ash or where I live, is there somebody going to be there monitoring and feeding the horses are how's, I'm just wondering how practical this is. How would you think it would work?
This is simply a safe, short-term place for an animal, either a horse or a sheep or anything like that. Yes, they would need to be fed and watered and to have it mucked out.
Right.
They would need monitoring, but it's probably safer for them there than at a wildfire.
Okay, and so there would be somebody with them.
The owner or somebody represented or found by the owner to look after them. You
Okay.
don't need to have somebody staring at the stalls 24 hours a day while the animal's in it.
Right. I'm just thinking about the District of Metchosin liability for those animals. Because they're on this property, I think we would be responsible for them.
Our insurance already covers it. So the Metchosin Equestrian Society has insurance through its for the use of the stalls, and it's already been investigated by our insurance provider, Acera Insurance. So as members of the Horse Council of British Columbia, we as a society have insurance to cover the animals that are within our property, and the animals that are housed within these stalls would be insured.
Okay, and then the question that I have is there is stalls at the farmers market. Wouldn't it be more practical to have a conversation with the farmers market, because in a wildfire or any emergency situation, there's not going to be
their stalls
farmers
are big
market.
enough for the stalls, the temporary stalls.
They're not big enough?
They're not. They're only, yeah, they're not large enough to cover the 10-foot by 10-foot stall.
Oh, what a shame. Okay.
Any other comments? Councillor Gray?
Yeah, I'm just remembering our discussion in December where the CEO suggested, rather than moving ahead with this idea, it was a different situation because there was a financial request, but that he was arguing that we should have a plan generally for the grounds, and that this might fit or not depending on that look. And I thought that was a good idea at the time, and I'm just wondering, does that change if we're not funding it, or is it the same issue? Where are we putting structures? What's our best circumstance?
Well, I think it's the same. It's still the district's land.
Yeah. So do we? Maybe through the chair or the CEO is working on that. I think are about to work on that question.
You're correct. That did come to us. CEO, did you wish to comment on that?
I believe when we talked about that, council wanted to sort of hold off until we knew more about the fire hall, and then we were going to talk about overall use of all of the core area of the municipality. I think that's where we left off.
Okay. So any other questions that we have for these ladies regarding this part of the letter?
Just one question through
Yes, go
you,
ahead.
Councillor Donaldson. So probably the best, or sorry, the most active use of these stalls, like is kind of on a more everyday level. You mentioned that some of your younger riders or your inexperienced riders might use this. So, sorry, key thing is it's going to get use on a more regular basis than emergencies.
Yes, it will be used during our events. We have members that have multiple sclerosis, we have members that have cerebral palsy, we have youth members, we have senior members, we have a lot of members that would greatly appreciate a more inclusive facility that had stalls.
Okay.
Just a point of order, I guess. For our deputy corporate officer, do we need a motion to go past 10 possible? So we're now at 1:45.
Yes, you will before 10 o'clock.
Okay. Should we do that now? Thank you. Seconded by Mayor Little. All in favor? Carrie, thank you very much. Okay, back to this unit. I think the fire chief had something to say. Go ahead, Chief Dunlop.
Thank you. Through the chair, just as emergency program coordinator, things have changed with EMCR, and that horses and goats, like our small hobby farm pets, are now considered pets. So that puts an additional onus on us to start thinking about group lodging for animals, right? During for this short-term basis, which is why we were hoping to do something like these emergency stalls. And it's not for, long-term at all. It's just for that short time until we can find another place to put them. And that could be anywhere from, a couple of hours to maybe a day. But if we're thinking about, our group lodging potentially over at the school and people are there, this is close that they can actually come and feed and take care of their animals. And we have to also consider, dogs and cats and, potbelly pigs if that's the case. So this is just giving us the tools that we need to take care of our community as we're required to by the provincial regulation. We also, on a side note, we do quite a bit of animal rescue. I mean, I had a couple of goats in the back of my truck not too long ago, right? Where did we put them for a couple of hours? And now we have to, it's true, you're left, but it's true. And having this kind of a stall here would be great because then we can put them in there and lock them up, and now we don't have to clean out goat poop out of the back of the truck. So, I am in favor and support this idea.
Okay, so I do have a couple of questions. When I think about facilities that do have units like this, and I guess the best one that we all would understand probably more than the others that I had looked into is Saanich Fairgrounds. And Saanich Fairgrounds has quite a number of livestock buildings, as you both know. The difference with Saanich Fairgrounds and ours is they are completely fenced and gated, and ours is not. So their liability would be significantly reduced should there be a breakout or that sort of thing. The one thing I haven't heard is whether or not the farming community has been approached on what they would do with their livestock. If there was other than in 2014, I think it was when we had our very first meeting about this. But in recent years, I have not heard that, as well as I do know that we have experienced, the other thing I was going to say about that is approaching local farms for things like the chief has just said, for animals to go and stay on site on a farm. Most farms have insurance to cover livestock, and that way there is somebody there 24/7. That usually people are checking on their animals more frequently than on a municipal ground where we all leave by night. So my concern initially was the liability to the district if an animal should get out, should get hurt, and whatnot. So it was one of the things that I thought about with who takes care of them, who's responsible for them, where's the food, where's all that sort of thing. When it was described initially, I thought, oh great, these panels could go like inside. And then that way you just put a hot wire around the bottom railing because nobody's going to be using it if there's a disaster or whatever, whether it's the main ring or the warm-up ring. So then those panels be used. And I do know the MES was looking at a conversation with the adjacent neighbor of having units there, not specifically these ones, but others. That's private property. There's different logistics involved with that. So that was initial exploration that was done. And something that occurred to me over the holidays as we all have been dealing with muddy properties, this is a very grassy area, so probably would have to be excavated and appropriate footing put into it as well. I'm just not clear because when it was described to me about the timber frame, which certainly does fit into our theme of our properties, is I thought that we were required maybe for the panels to be more substantial or anchored in a different way, but can you clarify if that was required at any point, or they are going to just stand free like this?
So similar panels are used at the Lockside Lane facility, and they are freestanding. The weight of the panels and the way they are designed and engineered is that they stand on their own.
Right, and our building inspector is aware of that? Like that fits
We
in
haven't gone through the permitting process at this point. And this is not for, this is just for consent.
Okay, because I did recall seeing something about that with him. Okay. Councillor Shukin, do you have a comment?
Again, I don't see a reason to not support this. Key thing is it is on within the MES's lease area. And again, I'm going back to the discussion we had with the Museum Society and then the producers about their structures. And I'm recalling too that there was initial sort of approval in principle, but then there was also a longer process that was taken before they actually got to build. So I'm happy, and I would like to make the motion that we support the Equestrian Society in principle in terms of building the covered horse shelter area. Does that work?
Okay, is there a second here? Councillor Gray?
I'll second that. I think the one thing that we've been around the table a little bit about who's taking care of the animals, and I think the answer is the owners are, and that they're not going to leave their animal there alone unless there's someone else to care for them, I presume. I think the other issue is the liability question, and so what I would suggest if we pass the motion that folks talk to the CAO and just confer on your liability clauses so that our CAO can take a look at that as well and then advise us in terms of our liability. Not to take away from what you said, but just to do the other due diligence before you go too far down the path. Because if there's an issue in liability for us, then we'll want to talk.
Councillor Shukin?
And just really quickly, this is going to take years to unfold. And I hear you have misgivings, Councillor Donaldson, but I think there will be some time to further discuss this, but I think it would be good to get the ball rolling. And it was interesting, again, recalling the portico process. We did have a site visit, and actually there was some interesting feedback that the museum guys got, and I trust that. And I would encourage you to bring this at the next grounds group meeting and start that deeper dialogue kind of with the other members as well. So, but yeah, I'm willing to support this and move ahead.
Okay. So we got the motion, we got the seconder. I do have another comment, and that is the when we were deliberating with, as you guys, well, not Anna as much, but Stella and then myself, the chief was on site with the museum people with how the parking would be with the rigs, with the museum. And one of the things that came out of there and has come out since then is horse people and non-horse people. And a lot of people, either on a chosen day, market day, or whatever, use this area for picnicking or whatever. How do you foresee using these stalls or paddock areas for, well, actually they're stalls because they're not paddocks, for when there's activities going on, the use of the driveway that goes to there and having non-horse people interfering? Because you will have people kind of coming and going, and there will be a mix.
I think we had a pretty good system at the last Chosen Community Day. We worked closely with, all the names escape me here at 10 o'clock at night. We worked closely with them and had traffic control across that driveway. The actual grass area that we're talking about wasn't used for picnicking. It was demonstrations by the vaulters and the petting zoo.
Correct. And so the people that are going from the grandstand, would you actually have it all fenced off during that time? Because you're going to need the horses coming and going, but there's going to be people going along the gravel in front of the riding ring and walking to the market because the market's going on. It's heavily traffic area. That's foot traffic. So that is, again, there will be potential for mixing non-horse people with horses if that's going to be used at that time.
And I think that lends itself more to the conversation around the event happening, right? This is our structures, this is where the traffic flows are, and this is what we need to do about it. Right off the top of my head, that sounds like boring some sheep fencing and keeping the crowd channeled where it needs to go.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing a risk management plan on that. And I agree with what CAO Payette said about us pursuing a plan for the property as it gets more crowded with events and parking and pedestrian use. Okay, so I'll call the question to, let's see, let me get back to the letter. In principle, consent in principle for erecting a horse shelter. Yeah, well, I'm just reading what it says here. So shelter for horses. Well, it's obviously it's an emergency shelter. It's not just a shelter for horses. So we need to keep that in the statement because that's where it started, and that's where it's potentially going, I guess. Okay, so any further discussion? I've seen none. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. Thank you very much. And I think that's everything. Not okay. Thank you, ladies. And now we move on to page 163, correspondence for action, 10C, the Great Victoria Public Library 2026 budget 5-year financial plan. So I have consistently reported on the ongoings of the public library GVPL board in my councillor's update. So this evening we have the 5-year financial plan in front of us, and the motion is that council approve the Great Victoria Public Library 2026 budget and 5-year financial plan. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Gray, and discussion. Mayor Little?
Yeah, I can't find my notes that I put on here. It's loading, but the essence of it was I'm a little bit concerned about the increases at the library. And this is, can someone remind me what it is? Is it $300 and some thousand that we are?
355,910. 6.5% increase.
Yeah, $355,000, and we don't have a book library here. We don't have even a mobile library here in Metchosin. Of course, everybody's welcome to go into Langford and Colwood, but that is a very high price to pay for library services for a community that doesn't have a library. I'm concerned about it, and that is a high increase. Does anybody else share my concerns?
It's an increase across the region, you're correct. And as I've reported, they have recently hired 9 assistant librarians. They're still not at capacity where they were pre-COVID, so this is why you're seeing some increase. The Highlands no longer does not have a library. View Royal does not have a library, and they're all owners of the 10 libraries that we have as well. So they too have shared concerns. I've had residents actually contact me regarding a branch here. We have 3 branches in the West Shore. Other regions do not. We also have probably about 100,000 people that live in the West Shore. Maybe it's a bit more now. Could be because I've lost track of how fast Langford's growing. And so it's not far to go to either satellite ones, 2 in Langford, and then our main one down at Colwood. I have suggested them having a bookmobile. It is something they are considering. At what point in time, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how that'll look, if it comes once a month or once every 2 weeks, if it just brings out certain holds. I have promoted the digital, and as you may have seen, I think there was an article recently, or even just an email of the cost of digital, which is they're trying to work on partnering with other library federations to keep that cost down. It's much cheaper actually to buy a book than it is to buy digital licensing, which is having to be renewed all the time. So yes, the costs are more. They're also having to have more security than they've ever had before. Libraries are not what they used to be in the past. They're warming centers and cooling centers throughout the year. You know, there's lots of different services that the libraries have changed according to what the patrons are requiring. Just recently, the announcement came out that we'll be opening up on Sundays. And they're starting with the Central Branch, so we'll see that again at the Langford branch. I'm not sure about the 2 satellite ones in Langford. That's where they'll be onboarding that with staffing and such. They have been saving a little bit of money maybe with having the Nellie McClellan branch closed and just having a satellite that only allows 50 people in at a time. But that's a bigger project that I've also reported on. Any other comments, Councillor Schuckel?
So one of the things we might consider doing is writing a letter for next year's budget process, requesting that, you know, the potential of an increase be kept below 5% or something like that. I don't know if we're going to have much luck circumventing or changing this budget process. I mean, I suppose if all of the municipalities got together, that might be, yeah. But maybe in anticipation for next year, it might be worth, you know, a letter to the library saying we need to keep an eye on things. So, yeah, this is and just back to the total is $355,910, or $66 per capita, in terms of Machosa's impact here. So, yeah, that is not insignificant when you look at that as just one piece of a whole bunch of other things that we're talking about. So yeah, might be something to consider.
Yeah, and I did invite them, I think you'll recall, the year before last to come and talk, and they actually go around every year to councils. Clearly we weren't on their agenda for this year because that would have been helpful. But like I say, they have 12 branches. That doesn't include the 2 satellites, but in the communities that they have to go to, there's just the CAO and the chair that do that. Mayor Little.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea, to send a letter expressing our concerns with the 8% increase with the addition of the rent adjustment of $1,993, $353,000 is a lot for us. So I think we could express that in the letter, but also for the lack of service for Machosen as well. And that we request conversation about how Machosen residents can be better served. I would be in agreement with that, but definitely. So this is their 5-year financial plan that they want to have approved, but I do. I'm willing to support it, but with the caveat that we communicate with them that we're not happy. Thank you.
Sure. It's a 6.5% increase, it looks like. So would you want to make a motion to write that letter, Mayor Little? Sure.
I'll make a motion.
Excuse me. Oh, sorry. There is a motion on the floor. So
yes,
if you call
right.
the question on the motion and then make a new motion. Sorry.
Correct. There is. I did state that at the beginning, and I think Councillor Schuckel was seconded. Is that? Oh no, Councillor Gray. Sorry. Okay. So any other discussion regarding the motion, and then we'll move on about the letter. Councillor.
Yeah, just to say, I really see the value of the public library and the service it provides. I do understand that we need to travel outside the district to the Montefeuca branch to access services or access online, or another branch. And I see the point about 355,000 being a lot of money, but I'm also looking at the rationale explained in the documents. The budget drivers include salary and benefits, library materials, building occupancy costs, and other factors. And if you look a little bit deeper, it looks to me like filling the vacancies that were left, I suppose, after COVID, or I expect it was after COVID, is giving us a bit of a serious bump. And then the other thing that is highlighted here is the Sunday openings. So my impression is that while we may have access issues from Metchosin, the actual expenditures are increasing services. So we're seeing an increased level of service being provided, and it's costing more money. I take the point that one wants to moderate these costs. I think a letter is fine, but probably that conversations when, in this case, Councillor Donaldson comes back and says, this is where we're at, that's really the time to get our feet in the waters, responding to the reports provided, and making that known at the table.
The Victoria Library system has been, I feel, at least with the work that I've been doing, has been responsive. As an example, they did come out and did a presentation in our community. I know none of you were there, I was, and that was through CERC. And now I'm seeing that CERC is actually, and any of us, because we are beyond, well, I think most of us are beyond 55 years old, can hitch a ride on the bus and go to the library, not even having to drive. So those services are actually, it's not appealing to everybody, but they are being responsive to some things, and they're more than happy to work with us on many things. I have to say it's been quite a pleasure working with the board and the staff. They actually make my time there, my hour a month. And I'm also on, chair another board with a different federation. They do make my job quite easy, and they're always organized and responsive to information. Their eyes actually lit up when I mentioned about a bookmobile, as to, wow, we haven't done that in many years. So certainly something for us to think about in the future. So I'm going to keep pursuing that one. They usually have a morning retreat every spring, so I hope to bring that up again as well. Realizing where our proximity is, that's not going to change. We all chose to live in a rural community 50 minutes away from, say, a library and the main recreation center. But as far as what our uses are, I think everybody at Stable has a different use or desire for the library for sure, and which is why I pushed out the digital component too, because not everybody, they like to stay home. A lot of our seniors are not wanting to drive every day or too many days a week, that sort of thing. So they're definitely open to hearing from us. I do know that. Very cooperative in that regard. And for any other ideas, keeping finances down. So on that, I call the question. Did we do that? Sorry. Okay, call the question on that motion so we can move on to the next one. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. Mayor Little, your motion for a letter.
Yeah, I move that I write a letter to the Greater Victoria Public Library regarding our concerns with the increasing in costs and our lack of service to Metchosin. Second, and also, of course, it will be a respectful letter. We don't write disrespectful letters. It'll be a very respectful letter. They do provide a wonderful service for citizens, and they're more than just a library. They are a gathering space, but we also have to acknowledge that it is of greater benefit to people that live around the library, that it's within their ecosystem, and that we're more removed from that. And anyways, that's my thoughts on that.
Okay, and do we have a seconder? You just, so, sorry, it's getting late. Councillor Gray, comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to raise the point that the previous motion will be giving approval to the 5-year financial plan. So in writing a letter, we've already approved the plan going forward. So just to say in terms of how one might write a letter. And then it's okay to, I guess, complain and say, you know, it costs more money and we don't have service. I think that's probably well known. Do we have any suggestions? So do we think they shouldn't have opened on Sunday? Do we think, like, is there something that we can see in here that they could work on? Is there anything that because if we said it's increased cost and lack of service, in order to drop costs, you're gonna have to drop the service. So, or expect you would.
Well,
So I'm just
like mobile book library would be advantageous on a day that the seniors are meeting. I mean, that might be something that would be
so maybe if we could put some ideas like that in the letter, just I don't have any, but that sounds like a good one, and some other things where we're not demanding more service and say we can't pay as much. It's hard.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point for them to maybe reevaluate where the services actually go. They are responding to the public and or their patrons for the services, which is why they're starting to open up on the Sundays again. I don't know when the Wanapeka one will be opening up, but we'll wait and see. They're just starting with one right now, and we'll see how that rolls out. So again, it's because patrons have asked for these services, and they're responding to that, as well as they just also, like everybody else, finalize their contract for their staff.
The point I might make is we're seeing a 6.5% increase here. We've yet to learn what our proposed increase is in Metchosin. So it may be parallel to this. So in other words, it may not be, the increase may not be out of line as to what we're going to do here in Metchosin. So again, just so we don't get a letter back pointing that out.
Okay. I don't know what that is.
Pardon? Can I speak?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, it's an 8% increase, right? Overall?
I thought it was 6.5.
Overall system-wide municipal funding increase request for 2026 is 8%.
Yeah, the District of Metchosin's share of the 2026 requisition is 6.5%.
Yeah.
Third paragraph in the cover letter.
That's what I read too. I didn't see the 8%. Sorry. What?
Mm-hmm. Okay. 6.5. I see. Okay.
Okay. So, seeing no further conversation or comments on that, writing letter. I call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 10D, West Shore Parks and Recreation Society 2026 budget and requisition request, page 177.
So maybe I'll start off. So the budget requisition for 2025 was $458,620.
Yes.
In 2026, the budget requisition is for Metchosin is $461,152. So tonight we're exploring or providing commitment to the Greater Victoria Library at $300,000, West Shore Parks and Rec at $461,000. That's almost $1 million that we're committing to facilities that are in other communities. I'm not sure if this is sustainable, but I'm interested to hear what my colleagues have to say.
Okay, so as you recall, we talked a little bit earlier about the master plan, and we've all been a part of that to give input. Some of it highly constructive, some of it quite negative. The one thing I have been trying to do is to get or promote West Shore to be more actively involved in our community, and what that does then takes the patrons from this community or even bordering Colwood, Langford to come out here. And we heard that a little bit with pickleball, even though that has nothing to do with West Shore. But there are people that are coming, say, from Royal Bay to some of the activities that are happening in the gymnasium for the fitness classes that West Shore is doing. That opens up spots for people, say, from View Royal, who many of them on the other side of their municipal hall would maybe go to Esquimalt, would then go down to the West Shore. So having these satellite areas, which is something I spoke to in my feedback when I was on the board to the consultants, it has a value for all 5 municipalities that are owners of the society. So that not all our patrons just go to the one spot, which is at capacity, for them to explore other areas. One of the big concerns was building brand new. And I said, well, we've got this gymnasium that's newly renovated, not brand new, but newly renovated. And so we are seeing some of that come here because of those efforts. And in speaking with the CFO, we've also been talking about, how do we invite them to start using our fields and maybe doing art related activities through MACA or in that part of our school building too. So those are all ideas that I've put out there and have had conversations with our CFO on as well, because this obviously is to do with our finances, and I recognize it's a substantial amount of money. We go to other communities and use a lot of their amenities, and I'm reminded of that from my colleagues in other communities as well. And I say, yes, we have lots of shores and beautiful trails and stuff. We don't have the staffing and whatnot, but we have a limited budget, so people are aware of that, as well as people, the staff at the table with West Shore. So things are always costing, and I know a lot of our citizens do go to West Shore Parks and Recreation. I see it on Facebook a lot with youngsters doing soccer and lacrosse and hockey and BMX competitions and those sorts of things. So we do sometimes have to go to these other communities, and I think the efforts are starting to show that, with having come to our school, this is great, and hopefully we'll see more services like that come here. As again, they're responding to the surveys they put out. So if this is what patrons are wanting, I'm not hearing lots of complaints. I do realize it's a lot of money. It's part of being an owner to a facility. Never is 100% that we get that out. I don't use the facility as much as I used to when my children were younger, as an example. Okay, so any other discussion? The motion.
Donaldson? Oh,
yes,
okay.
sorry.
Go ahead. Just that, if we could get a motion on the floor before any more discussion takes place.
Yes, the motion is that council approve the West Shore Parks and Recreation Society 2026 budget and requisition. Second by Councillor Shukin. Further comments? Seeing none, call the question. You have a comment? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I can't help but think that what we would do with $450,000 if we put that towards the school, for instance. That's only 1 year to the improvements in our school. That is a arts and culture and sports center. So I'm just musing now, but I want everybody to think about it. I was wondering if maybe we can have a comment from the CAO or the CFO. That'd be okay. CFO.
Yeah, Mr. Creed.
Through the chair, thank you. I'll just correct that. In 2025, the district of Metchosin collected $624,000 for West Shore. We paid the requisition, and then the difference goes into a reserve for potential capital additions that come from West Shore. So right now we've got just over $2 million sitting in that reserve. So yeah, 624. It would be 630 $430,000 next year, right? Not just the 460 that they show.
Okay. That's a lot of money.
And then could I just ask through the chair to the CFO, is the percentage increase then, I think I'm looking at, there's a number of them for different purposes, but the requisition says the percentage increase from last year from Metchosin would be 0.55%. Overall, it's a 5.56%, but for Metchosin, it's only 0.55. It's on the final page.
Yep. Through the chair. Yeah, correct. So they requisitioned 458,000 from us in 2025, and so just $3,000 is 0.5%.
So this is not a big increase on this one, but we do have that. Thank you for reminding us about the money going into reserves.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, not seeing any. I call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And on to 10E, Minister Brenda Bailey, Ministry of Finance, invitation to participate in annual consultation on speculation and vacancy tax, page 209. Takes a while to scroll down. It's gone blurry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Councillor Donaldson, I'd move receipt of this. I've had a look at the stats. They're interesting. I think it's good that the speculation and vacancy tax is applied here. In terms of input, personally, I have none. Other than it's interesting to see the statistics specific to Metchosin. So
I'll second the motion.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, second by Councillor Gray. Any further discussion?
just pass on thanks to government for keeping us posted on all this.
Great, thank you. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. On to number 11A, correspondence for information. Councillor Corey Ramsey, UBCM President, Canada Community Building Fund, Second Community Works Fund payment for 2025-2026. It's on page 327, and the motion is that the correspondence be received for information.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Mayor Little. Any comments?
Yeah, just that this is $147,000 is the final payment for the Community Works Fund with gratitude. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Number 12A, bylaws, District of Metchosin Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw, number 715.
And we've postponed this?
We did postpone this. Yes, so that one's tabled to a future meeting. No other business, no question period because we're beyond 9:30.
Adjournment.
Move to adjourn. Councillor Gray, Mayor Little second. All in favor? Carrie, thank you very much.